Hey guys! Part 6 of What If Naruto Can Use Space-Time Ninjutsu and Travel Between Universes. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Chapter 14 Insight. During his life, Zabuza had fought many opponents. He had massacred 100 soon-to-be genin before he had even reached the age of 12. He had murdered his sensei to impress a swordsman of the mist and convince him to take him as his apprentice, inadvertently making him a chunin in the process. He had killed said new master in a duel for the beheading knife, the sword he currently wielded. He had faced the Mizukage alongside 3 other allies, and barely escaped alive, bleeding profusely on Kisame's back as they had run away from an enraged Jinchuriki. He had survived the assaults of entire teams of hunter nins, and continued walking. And more recently, he had fought a group of SS-ranked enemies and lived to tell the tale about it. But it was the first time he was fighting animated skeletons. Deflecting a simple boring slash attack, Zabuza wondered if they were really demons or just some dead souls having been conscripted in the forces of hell. He just, expected more from devils. The 2 he was dealing with at once were simply using their blades with skill that couldn't be compared to his own. If they were the best weapon masters the Makai had to offer, then no wonder they needed to recruit ninjas. These 2 could put a good fight against average samurai, but against one of the best swordsmen of Kiri, they were cannon fodder. Time to remind these clowns who was at the top of the food chain here. In a flash, Zabuza smashed one of his enemy's head with his blade, breaking the helmet, the skull, the thorax, the spine, everything in one blow. The skeleton crumbled into a pile of bones, the glow in its eye socket vanishing. Its companion tried to flank the missing nin, only to lose his head as Zabuza punched it so hard that the skull shattered in many parts. The body fell, the green glow disappeared, and the former Kiri nin began to look for new prey. He soon found one, sort of. One of the ogre-like creatures was glaring at him, holding its iron club menacingly, while being imprisoned inside a block of ice. Zabuza locked eyes with his adopted daughter, who smiled sheepishly. "Well, I thought it would be a good paperweight." She feebly tried to excuse herself. The swordsman snorted. "Too ugly," he said as he shattered the snowman with his blade, killing the monster and sighed in the process. "Find something else." Haku scowled, but gave no verbal reply. To his side, Zabuza saw the head of the second ogre being propelled in the air by pressurized water, Sasori quickly sealing the beheaded body in a scroll, probably to dissect it later, or do something even worse, something the swordsman had no intention of witnessing. He had listened to Chibaka's stories about his masters, special puppets, after all. A bit away, one of the humanoid bulls cried as the aforementioned blonde puppeteer made his puppet unleash a concentrated stream of gas right at the creature's eyes. Fortunately for it, Kitsune decided to give it a merciful death, by having Samahata absorb its chakra until it was reduced to a dead husk. The last minor demon probably cried a bit too, but Zabuza couldn't see it as the beast was pinned to the ground by a true mountain of Naruto clones, while Kazama and Kakashi slammed Rasengan after Rasengan into its stomach. After a while, the 2 stopped, leaving the cadaver behind as they walked toward the rest of the group, the army of Naruto right after them. All in all, Kishin's flunkies had lasted less than 5 minutes. "Well then," the Demon Lord said, eyeing the massacre from the sky, his wings beating the air every few seconds. "That was quick. I don't know if you feel the same, guys and girls," Chibaku muttered, "but I expected something more difficult." "Yeah," Naruto agreed. "For demons they were certainly easy to beat." "Blame demonic politics," Kishin grumbled. "Most demon lords are so focused on keeping their position, not to mention the fact that the majority of them are amazingly stupid and ignorant, that they kill everyone that could present a danger to them, or in a nutshell, anyone that shows any intelligence, strength, or competence. Hell is now composed of armies of cannon fodder and a few really Really powerful generals that cannot grow any more powerful than they already are lest they develop the potential to destroy planets, and thus increase the odds of destroying our own forces and property in fits of rage. Why do you think we haven't conquered the universe yet? Zabuza snorted. Well, that's Yagura's Kiri taken to its logical extremes. I don't understand, Kitsune declared. If you are so afraid of having competition, why do you still want to recruit strong people? Strong mortals, the creature corrected. Here is the trick. As long as they don't die, our mortal allies are out of the demonic hierarchy, which means that they can't command or steal our large armies, lacking the link that unites all fiends. This also means that they can't kill demon lords permanently. You see, each time we die, we recompose ourselves in the Makai and are reborn, but if the murderer is a fiend like us, it instead absorbs our energy and becomes a demon lord. You kill it, you keep it. That's a bit freaky, Chibaku muttered. Are you implying you're cannibalistic? Well, we are demons, not vegetarians, unless of course you are counting demonic plants-only diets, of course. Kishin replied. Since most demons are weak, conquering other universes has become quite hard, so we have to make deals with mortals to keep our reputation as fearsome as ever. So, are you sure you don't want to help these poor creatures defend themselves against the cruel and nasty heroes and celestial beings that always screw with us? Zabuza feigned pondering the offer. Well, how to tell you that politely? No. Kishin shook its head. We are offering you the chance to correct a great injustice. We are desperately trying to recuperate what is rightfully ours from the claws of these loathsome, disgusting, overconfident creatures that have yet to repent for their sins. But you can't just stop thinking about yourselves. I'm hurt. He spoke with an almost sincerely sad tone. So deeply hurt, is it me, or is it trying to guilt-trip us? Naruto wondered. It appears so, Zabuza replied, watching the spectacle without really knowing how to react to it. Really, I feel almost sorry for it. Keyword almost. Of course I'm trying to guilt-trip you, Kishin declared with a suddenly angry voice. You cannot be corrupted, so appealing to your inner goodness might work. At least he's honest and straightforward. Naruto deadpanned. It could have, if you hadn't menaced to burn a village to the ground some minutes ago, Kazama pointed out. And also ordered your soldiers to either kill or capture us. That doesn't tend to earn points with most people. Well, the villagers would have attacked us first. It's self-defense. And by killing and capturing you, I actually meant convincing you to work for us through special techniques. He made finger quotes on his redefinition of the term. Especially not torturing you or using very evil rituals to resurrect you as efficient, if stupid, members of the demonic legions. Everyone in the group rolled its eyes. You know, why haven't we killed him yet? Zabuza asked. Because I'm really convincing? Kishin tried hopefully. The glares of the humans made it sneer. Okay, you don't want to settle this diplomatically. Well, if you want to fight, you will have it. The swordsman snorted. As if you had a chank dash. He never finished his sentence, as Kishin dive-bombed them like a meteor, almost crushing them all under his body. The ninja's reflexes saved their lives, making them jump backward to avoid the attack, but the shockwave made all of Naruto's clones explode. Zabuza barely had the time to blink before Kishin closed the distance between the two of them. The creature, despite its size, was even faster than Haku herself. I'm a demon lord. The monster growled with all the social part of his personality gone as his claws pierced the air toward the missing Nin's heart. Which means that I am one of the best the Makai has to offer in terms of power. Don't underestimate me simply because I was willing to attempt to be nice about converting you. Quickly, Zabuza protected his torso with sword, shielding himself. Or so he thought. Instead, the claws drilled through the metal, creating holes in it, and then went through the man's flesh as if it was butter. His damaged blade saved his life, preventing the claws from touching the vital points. But he couldn't help but crash helplessly on his back, heavily wounded and his vision already blurring. Before losing conscience, he heard Haku shout his name and Kishin roar cruelly. The traveler, Kazama. Zabuza-sama! As Haku rushed to her mentor's side, Kishin turned around and charged at her. Acting quickly, Chibaku projected a lot of gas at the demonic lizard from his puppet. The creature didn't seem to be affected by the poison, but changed target and punched Yukmachi, demolishing the puppet in one blow. As the blonde puppeteer cursed inwardly, Sasori used his flamethrower, and Kazama enhanced it with the heat wave. The result was a massive inferno which engulfed Kishin completely. Chibaku, go help Zabuza! The World Wanderer ordered his younger counterpart. Kitsune, follow and protect him! Naruto, Kakashi, help us with long-range techniques! As his friends took their position, their enemy got out of the fire completely unscathed, still charging at a speed that could be compared to Lee's. Since flames apparently didn't work, Sasori switched weapons and shot pressurized water at the demon, which was deflected by the creature's dense hard-scaled skin. Before the rest of the humans could begin their techniques, Kishin had closed the gap between them and swung his arm, attempting to tear the group apart with his claws. While they dispersed, the beast's tail moved swiftly and its dart pierced Sasori's body below the heart, breaking his body in half. Acting quickly, Kakashi exploited the opening by ramming a Chidori on the monster's left limb, only to see the electricity absorbed by its body. The silver-haired man only had time to blink before Kishin seized him and smashed the ninja into the ground, making a small crater in the process. As the demon approached the stunned Jonin, Kazama unsheathed the Kusanagi, pointed it toward the creature's head, and activated the blade's piercing and stretching ability. The sword impaled the demon's left eye, making the beast shed black blood and release its prey, who fell on the ground. The monster roared angrily, opened its muzzle, and breathed a green fireball toward the blonde. Naruto jumped into the attack's path and made hand seals, transforming the remnants of Sasori's water into a wave which evaporated as it made contact with the blast and stopped it. And then a dart shot out of the steam, pierced Naruto's belly, and sent her flying away. His eyes widening in horror, Kazama gritted his teeth and unleashed the strongest cold wave he could create at Kishin. The lizard opened its wings, and then flew in the air, avoiding the blast of wind, only to become the target of multiple ice shards thrown at it. "Keep him back!" Haku shouted as she rushed in Naruto's direction. "I saw liquid dripping from the dart. It's probably poison. I can slow it down by partly freezing her, but I need cover." "Go!" Kazama replied, as he projected blast after blast at the demonic flying lizard, who avoided them all. "Where are Chibaku and Kitsune?" "The first is treating Zabuza-sama's wounds." She put her palms on a groaning Naruto's torso. "The second, I don't know." "And shit!" The lizard dive-bombed him, while flaring his claws. Acting quickly, Kazama activated his chakra chains and jumped to the side. The flying bastard barely missed him, but the ephemeral restraints captured his wings and tied them, forcing the demon to crash brutally into the ground. The blonde's chains winded around his enemy's body, and both Kishin and Kazama struggled. The first to break free, the second to keep the demon contained. And then, "Samahada, rip them apart!" And then Kishin screamed as Kitsune jumped above its tied wings and slashed them with his sword. The fish-like creature shredded the wings apart, reducing them to the state of bleeding tatters of skin. The monster roared, and whipped the boy with its tail, sending him fly away. The young Jinchuriki landed near his teenager counterpart, and quickly got up. "I hope I'm not late." "No," Kazama replied. "I assume you were waiting for an opportunity?" "Yes, I figure watch out." The demon lord had opened its muzzle in their direction, and didn't seem so happy. "Die!" he roared before shooting another green fireball at them, or at least they thought. Instead, the blast was sent toward Haku and Naruto. Acting quickly, the World Wanderer rotated and intercepted the attack with the cold wave, deflecting it. But in doing so, he ceased to focus on the chains, and Kishin seized the opportunity to shatter them. As Kazama turned around again, the demon lord was standing on its legs, and deeply inhaling. "Burn!" And then, it unleashed a green inferno at them. As an ocean of fire advanced toward them at an incredible speed, the two Naruto could only blink as death came to claim them. Or not. Almost as if reality itself had decided to intervene at that moment, the fire that would have immolated the teens stopped, twisted, and extinguished itself, much to everyone's amazement. And then, something big dive-bombed Kishin, some sort of silver and pink thing, hit the demon lord, created a crater in the process, and then flew again in the air. Who in their right mind is foolish enough to attack a demon general? I do hope you are well aware of how incredibly stupid that. Kishin got up, looked at its attacker, and paled. Its purple skin literally turned white, and its jaw dropped. No, it cannot be. Zizuzushi? Kishin. The creature, which looked some kind of serpentine dragon, landed lightly onto the ground and growled lightly as if almost amused. Despite the fact that it seemed to be talking, none of the humans there could tell what the gender of it was supposed to be, as it seemed to speak telepathically through their very minds. I'm not surprised. Out of all the demon lords sired by my grandfather, you were one of the few who remained somewhat honest and organized while still maintaining power, yet still foolish enough to jump at any opportunity shown in front of you without making sure that it wouldn't bite you in the long run. Kazama shivered as the silver creature whipped its tail onto the ground in irritation and felt something quake around him. Even though the ground was what was hit, he felt as if something more essential had been what had been impacted. Even if Kishin hadn't been naturally afraid of the new visitor, the teen knew that it was something far beyond what he had encountered so far in his travels. This is a new level of stupidity even for you. The dragon continued. You were actually foolish enough to jump into an unknown world at the call of a random summoner, just because the portal had the potential to be permanent? Whatever happened to the expendable minion's first rule? Going in head first without grasping the situation is something expected from amateurs. Such haphazard planning will only end with your enslavement, or crushing defeat in the end, either from me, a god that actually decides to get off of its ass, or another group of copy and pasted heroes. The creature gritted its fangs, clearly swallowing his pride as he bowed. You have a point as always, my lady. I may have let my excitement gotten the better of me due to the circumstances, however it will not happen again. Regardless, I am confused. Great and respected Sky Mother, what are you doing here? I thought you don't go out of your way to aid most other worlds that are endangered. Quite the contrary, you are rather known to destroy a few on occasion. Don't mistake my appearance to be for mere charity. The creature, apparently female, replied irritably. Even you should be able to tell that your summoner used an unknown and unstable power. Something like that should not be in the hands of one such as yourself for obvious reasons. You are lucky that I got to you first. If the gods and other higher-level existences heard of what you were about to do with the child, or had they discovered your gross abuse of this portal to unleash far more greater demons than is appropriate, then getting maimed on levels that only I can deliver would be the least of your problems. As for your summoner, if he truly is willing to call stupid, irrational, destructive demons to do his bidding, then he is either a misanthropic genocidal maniac, an evil overlord admirer, overly ambitious, insane, or really, really stupid. In all cases, allowing him to grow in power and menace other universes unchecked would be extremely annoying for me, especially if he boosts your ego. Kazama was never one to assume things based on colors. However, even he would admit that he had never expected to see the color pink such a malevolent form as he did now while observing the dragon's eyes glow. Time to remind you who really calls the shots in the multiverse. But, the lizard shook its head vehemently. But you are mistaken. The summoning was an accident. Of course it was. The flying thing declared with blatant sarcasm. It's always an accident. Like the time my container woke up and found herself naked next to 3 women and an albino midget dressed as a chupacabra. But it's the truth. Kishin complained, before eyeing Kazama. You tell her the truth. The teen trailed off, his mind not working properly. I would like to, but I don't understand a heck of what it's going on. Me neither, Kitsune added sheepishly. Is this a family reunion? Of sorts, the flying dragoness mused before eyeing the humans there, or more specifically the alternate versions of Naruto there. Oh? I guess that this incident may truly have been a mistake considering who is involved. She chuckled. It will be rather amusing to see the boys' reaction to this. I see that many of you are wounded, My servant will attend to you. Your servant? Kishin squeaked, turning paler if possible. You brought one of your guardians, Lady Suzushi? Not all of them. The dragoness shook her head with a hint of amusement. Only my container, Ghost, and that blonde apprentice of his. The lizard was pissing himself. The second origin and the god of. The demon almost blurted out before looking around warily, almost as if checking to see if he was almost caught saying the worst thing possible. I mean the cursed memory? Kazama and Kitsune had no idea of who or what they were talking about, and silently agreed to shut up and wait to see what will happen. Indeed. Suzushi nodded casually as she looked at one of her claws, inspecting them as if she had nothing better to do. And Ghost's apprentice as well. So the rumors were true, he has taken another student. Kishin uttered ominously. A boy was said to have been traveling with your strongest servant recently, gold of hair, eyes as blue as the deepest ocean, the mind of a cunning and morally deprived genius, and the physical and mental durability of one that could remain sane after staying with your servants for extended amounts of time. Kazama didn't know why, but he had the distinct feeling Suzushi had cringed at the description. The physical description is accurate, his endurance is also rather remarkable for a human, but his intelligence is more. He is a moron, isn't he? The world wanderer guessed. Not as much as that, as he is impulsive and somewhat cunning. The dragoness nodded sadly. And loud. Very loud. Here is the great feral gale. Someone shouted before several figures landed right between the two demon entities. When the dust settled, a trio of humans was posing. On one side was a woman/teenage girl wearing a pink tank top, tan shorts, and a very long-sleeved black trench coat, with long hair of the same color and emerald eyes. On the other stood a strange man in a white t-shirt, tan cargos, and a short-sleeved black trench coat, with long brown hair tied in a ponytail and wearing black glasses. In the middle was the great ninja. A familiar teenager began, this time clad in a black short-sleeved sweater that had a stained spiral on the front with a long-sleeved white shirt underneath it. His hands were encased in what seemed to be fingerless furry gloves, but they could be gauntlets since the white shirt covered his arms. His shorts were tan and had many pockets, and he was wearing his head protector on his large collar, leaving his longer spiked hair to fall forward to shadow his slit eyes and slightly thicker whisker marks. The most badass ass kicker in this entire multiverse. The Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and the future Hokage of Konoha. He smiled overconfidently at them all. Naruto Uzumaki. Wahahaha. Ha. 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 The world wanderer paled in shock, as his new counterpart locked eyes with him, and dropped his jaw, quickly imitated by the other copies of them that were still conscious to see what was happening. What the fuck? They all wondered out loud, before the new Naruto's companions began to wail on him. Where the hell was our introduction, you selfish brat? The woman roared as she stomped on him. You! The most badass ass kicker in the multiverse? That's one of my titles, you retard. You think you're actually strong enough to take on the guy who taught you all the tricks you're currently famous for? The man shouted in rage as he pounded on the boy comically. Just give them a minute, the dragoness said to the others present, as a bead of sweat ran down the side of her head. They'll pay attention to the situation soon enough. The feral Gale getting back up after his minor episode, the new blonde finally had time to think about his current situation. The boy had seen many things in the multiverse thanks to his master, eternally labeled in his mind as Eroni, literally dragging him to wherever he felt like hanging out next. Monstrous angels, superpowered pirates, a demonic and bratty overlord, and many, many other strange creatures and people. But never did he have met, well, another himself. Two, in fact. Who are they? The youngest of the two asked. He was wielding Samahata, of all things. I don't, oh screw this, the oldest replied. You. Are you enemies or allies? One of my friends really needs a healer. They are my servants. Suzushi trailed off. And technically you're allies. Now that I am looking more at you, I must admit I'm surprised. I certainly didn't expect to see multiple alternate versions of Ghost's Apprentice there. The dragoness locked eyes with Shadow. The blonde girl at my distant left has been poisoned by my cousin. You have treated demonic toxins before, so get to work. Wait! The immortal girl shouted. Before we go! She looked around and saw all the different versions of Naruto around. There are a lot of variants here. There's even a Naruto. She mused before turning to her male companion, who had no doubt noticed the same thing. The immortals glared at one another for several seconds before she struck first. $50 says one of them is gay for Sasuke, she shouted quickly. Fuck! The male wearing sunglasses swore before relenting and shaking the girl's hand. No doubt he was against the odds in the bizarre bet. Lucky little, he grumbled under his breath as he walked away sulking. What? Blinked everyone else within hearing range of the two, clearly not knowing or wanting to understand what the odd pair was thinking about at the time. Shadow. Healing. Fairly important. Suzushi spoke up with a clearly tired look in her eyes. Do it or I'll find more work for you to do. The girl's jaw clenched. Sadist, she muttered, before furiously eyeing the two other Naruto. You follow me. Try anything stupid and I'm going to put a leash around your neck and make you my pets. Obey her. The feral Gale advised them hysterically. She actually did that to me once when I ate some candy in front of her. It sucked. The duo was apparently too stunned to say anything, but something, probably survival instinct, pushed them to obey the angry Shadow. Ghost, Suzushi began as she looked for her other servant. I want you to deal with that portal, did it? Huh? The dragoness blinked, finding the man standing casually with his hands in his pockets right next to her. When? You're talking to the guy who is on top of the multiverse's list of people/gods most likely and able to fuck up the entirety of the space-time continuum. Remember? The man deadpanned. Of course I could tell that the portal was going to be trouble if it was left alone. I fixed it when you first popped up and spent all that time speaking to that demon guy there. Well, that's one major issue dealt with. The dragoness mused, as she eyed the demon lord. The creature almost pissed himself. But Lady Suzushi, I am family. Surely you can be lenient. Even your guardians are known for their rules regarding their own kin. You have obviously not seen how they treat one another then. She scoffed. But since you are nowhere close to being a truly arrogant, annoying, and ignorant pride-filled fool that many of our kin, I'm not going to erase you from existence. The demon seemed relieved, its white skin becoming purple. I will simply let my servants beat the crap out of you, kill you, and then allow you to reform in the Makai instead with your powers intact. Since your rank and power will remain, your reincarnation will take a long time, most likely several hundred years. Purple became white again. You have 5 minutes to prepare, heal yourself, summon the help of whatever minor demons that are bound to your will, whatever you need to slow down the inevitable. The dragoness declared as she lay down on a hill. After that, well, I am expecting for a good show to occur soon. Do not disappoint me. The new Naruto turned to the strange man that came with him and looked at him with a tired expression, not paying attention to the fact that right behind him 3 clones of himself had appeared without any seals in a lotus position and began to meditate. He on the other hand made a dragon seal and held it while talking. You did this on purpose, didn't you? This is some trippy alternate world with even more alternate versions of me running around, isn't it? The master chuckled and scratched the back of his head. Actually, I'm not responsible for this for once. He turned to see the demon lord tearing a massive temporary portal into the fabric of time and space, calling forth an army's worth of minor demons to aid him while frantically regenerating the damage he sustained earlier. So which one do you want, tall, dark, and gingivitis, or the several thousand inbred rednecks of the netherworld? Remember, you probably won't have another chance to fight such an army, since demon lords can only use this summoning spell once in a century. The feral Gale raised an eyebrow. I have a choice? Scratch that, I actually have a shot at beating that guy. He's 12 feet tall and has armor as skin for crying out loud. Didn't stop you from kicking the sand by his ass while barely relying on Sage Mode and none of the Kyuubi's chakra after getting chased down for several miles by Kisame and Itachi and pumping out exploding clones the entire time. The taller of the two shrugged. I summoned all 3 warrior toads and had Sasuke with me for that one, and after that I couldn't move for 2 weeks. The blonde frowned. Besides, this guy can actually think with an IQ above 30. I think, relax? Ghost sighed. If you can feel his strong presence during a calm period and you can tell that he's generally within your ballpark, then you have nothing to worry about. It's the guys that can hide themselves completely while being absurdly strong that you need to worry about. Like you? The boy deadpanned. Ah, well shucks, now I feel embarrassed. The immortal swooned and giggled like a small girl. Naruto rolled his eyes. Fine. Screw it. Give me the big one. If I wanted to fight against an army, I'd just go to an open area and make a ton of clones anyways. Plus, if this guy really was that strong, you'd already be hogging him for yourself. Fine by me. The master chuckled. Word of advice though, against this one it would be best to come out swinging. Your base level attacks without support won't do much against him. 30 seconds. The horse-sized dragon lying down on a nearby hill yawned. No kidding. I wouldn't have figured that with the multiple almost dead versions of me, one of them holding Samahata of all things, Zabuza, Haku, and Kakashi all lying around. The feral Gale rolled his eyes as he let his hands go. He looked around at something in the air that apparently was only visible to him and his master. You think this enough? If it isn't, you'll know soon enough. The man shrugged. As always, you've proven yourself to be an inspiration to all who wish to be helpful to others in the multiverse. Naruto sighed before standing absolutely still and closing his eyes. Within seconds, the skin on and around his eyelids were pigmented red, the same as the clones sitting behind him. 8 seconds. The man mused. You've cut your time by a few more seconds again, I see. Not bad. Still trying to get to the 5-second marks. The smirking boy chuckled darkly as he cracked his knuckles by flexing them and showing off his slightly elongated canines. You know, to match that fucking annoying technique Nagato uses and all. He opened his eyes to show that his pupils were now slit sideways now as well as colored gold, much like a toad's. Time, Suzushi stated with finality, looking to see Kishin fully recovered and standing, albeit a bit nervously if the small twitch in his eyebrow and tail were any indication. In front of an army 10,000 demons strong. Well then, what are you two waiting for? Blow something up already. Attack! Kishin roared hysterically, no doubt because in his mind if his army and himself did so with all their might he might have a chance to survive. A half a second later Ghost had virtually warped past the giant demon in an insane show of speed and was now laughing like a small child at an amusement park with a black and white short sword in each hand, one of which was held deep into the eye of a cyclops that was already dead and falling backwards. Before jumping forward, being trailed by the creatures spraying blood and casually slaying the demon lord's flunkies one by one as if it was an amusing game. Despite his impressive initial burst to get to the army, the man was now moving almost slowly as he ducked and weaved between skeletons, ogres, devils, and other members of the army, cutting them down with almost lazy attacks that seemed like any human could have done if they had enough experience, stamina, and a fast enough reaction time. Ha! Swing! Swing! As fast as you can! You can't catch me, I'm the crazy blind man! He taunted as he ducked in between an ogre's legs while cutting its tendons before jumping on his back and stabbing a vital point before spinning low on one foot to dodge an attack from behind that would have decapitated him and gutted the possessed human in front of him. As he attacked, he also hopped back to avoid being crushed by another ogre's club before jumping on the weapon and then stabbing the beast in the face and through the brain. It appeared that the monster's body would collapse on top of the man, but apparently he had put enough force into the attack to cause the beast to fall backwards, and as it did so he used it as a platform to jump deeper into the army to have more fun. What sort of? Kishin growled, both irritated and confused. What is he thinking? Probably that you weren't dumb enough to turn your back on an unoccupied enemy. Grunted an irritated and significantly less bright and sunny feral Gale about the demon's eye level with a fist cocked back. Before the demon lord could respond, the boy's fist collided with his head, and the significantly taller of the two was launched back several dozen feet from the blow. TCH. Great. All power and no freaking experience. The boy grunted with focused eyes as he watched the beast get up again. At least he looks like he can take a hit. I was foolish to forget about you, boy. I see that your master is confident enough in your abilities to leave me to you. Kishin growled as he picked himself up and spat out a tooth. Your alternate selves were rather tricky even though they were weak. No doubt you will be stronger given who you travel with. The monster's wings stretched out and he began to fly into the air, never taking his eyes off of his young-looking opponent as he gained altitude. I will have to fight with my strengths against you. He smirked as he breathed in deeply, obviously about to breathe out fire again. The blonde, on the other hand, just chuckled as he made a dragon seal again and focused a small amount on the chakra he had infused with the air around him, a technique that not only served as a method of absolute air manipulation, but also served as a sort of extra-sensorial perception as well. It was called the Seventh Sense, and using it Naruto was currently manipulating the air around the demon's wings so that the monster wouldn't be able to fly, just about now. The moment Kishin was about to attack, the lift provided by its wings disappeared instantly. As such, the flames that he was originally going to use to attack the boy now served as his new form of propulsion, a far more unstable form of propulsion if the uncontrolled and completely random path of flight the demon was taking along with the panic screaming was any indication. It was rather comical for everyone watching as he crashed headfirst into his army and blew up a good number of his soldiers in a rather impressive green mushroom cloud. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle. Hey. Wow, I wonder if it will be that funny when I do that to Deidara. A loud roar of rage calmed him down again as he saw many weak members of the army between him and the crash zone getting blown away by some massive force heading straight towards him. I guess warm-ups are over. The human fighter smirked as an elaborate blade of wind chakra extended from each his wrists to almost a meter in length. Round 1. The huge foe had cleared his army and was now rushing towards his prey with a massive intent to kill. The blonde in turn matched that intent with his own, making the air around him and far beyond alive with his will, becoming his savage ally and weapon that could strike from all angles at his command. Fight. The word fox, Kitsune. So? The mysterious young woman, apparently named Shadow, began, as they advanced toward Haku and Naruto. Which one of you wants to screw Sasuke? I don't know what you're talking about, Kazama replied. I don't even know who you are, or what is going on. I will explain everything once you are all able to listen so I don't have to repeat myself, she replied before an uncomfortable grin made its way onto her face. But first things first. Which one of you is lusting after SAS Yuke? There is no way that there would be so many alternate versions of yourself in one place, and not have at least one of you lusting for the duck butt. I can't care less about Sasuke, the teen affirmed. Right now, I only care about my friends. Go help Naruto. I'll bring the others while you do that. And then he left for the place where Kakashi had been recovering. You? Shadow asked, as she locked eyes with Kitsune. I killed him, the boy replied ominously, the memories of the Uchiha's brutal murder at the behest of the voices rushing through his mind. And I ever only loved Hinata. Oh, okay then. The girl blinked, before giving them a sadistic, false smile. Clearly she was not at all disturbed or surprised with the boy's first statement. Then I assume it's Naruto. No, Kitsune said while shivering. And definitely not Chibaku either. The guy was a closet pervert, no matter how hard he was trying to deny it. Sorry, but you lost your bet. Shadow's expression became terrifying. It was some kind of mix between imminent rage, sulking, and nervous breakdown. Out of 4 Naruto, out of 4 different Naruto, she muttered ominously. None of you have a Sasuke-centric sexuality. How? That's a statistical anomaly. The blonde didn't say anything, waiting for the woman to explode in anger. But instead, she locked eyes with Kitsune. You have a crush on Sasuke. No dash, you have a crush on Sasuke, she ordered. You were stalking him since you were 9, And you are lusting after Itachi on the side and hide handmade dolls of them both under your bed back in Konoha. Ghosts mustn't know I've lost, so you better repeat this story until you believe it. Either you pretend to have a crush on Sasuke, or I'm going to castrate you. Kitsune opened his mouth, and then closed it. Just heal Naruto, and I'll do whatever you want. Well, you're no fun. I expected at least an effort to fight back there. The woman pouted almost disappointedly before giving him a slightly more serious gaze. At least your care for your friends is consistent. I can respect that. Traveling a small distance, they finally reached the wounded girl, and Haku eyed Shadow suspiciously. Who's this? The ice user asked with caution. The elder female simply snorted as she walked right up to the poisoned girl's other side and began to rummage through her coat. Let me treat her, and she'll be jumping around and everything in less than a minute. The younger girl locked eyes with Kitsune for confirmation and got a hesitant nod in return. That was all she needed to prompt her to slowly move back and watch what happened next. Let's see. Demonic base decay-themed poisoning and a giant hole in the gut. Pretty deadly, but not untreatable, the woman muttered to herself as she inspected her patient. I'm not on the old man's level of healing, but fortunately I got ways around that limitation. She grinned as pulled out an empty bottle from her coat. Before anyone could ask what she was doing, the woman placed one of her hands over the open top of the container and various materials began to suddenly fall down from her palm into it. Red, black, green, and fluids of indescribable colors and textures filled the container in various amounts for a short amount of time before the bottle was filled. Then, as if the container doubled as a blender, the contents began to spin rapidly for a few seconds before coming to a complete halt and turning into a pure gold substance. The woman posed with the glowing jar immaturely. Tada! I just created a universal tonic made of a delicate and highly experimental composition of Wolverine cells, medication for an Evangelion, and the blood of a baby dragon. She then forced the bleeding and semi-conscious Naruto to drink the substance. I have no idea what it tastes like, but this should theoretically work. Thanks for offering your services. Wait. Theoretically? Kitsune shouted worriedly as the fluid went down his friend's throat. The blonde girl coughed, and woke up completely as a good amount of the potion went down the wrong tube. Despite the rough feeding of the elixir, though, the results were almost instant. Immediately, Naruko's wounds began to heal quickly, and she regained some measure of consciousness. What happened? She asked to the group, before widening her eyes and getting up. The demon. Ghost and his minion are taking care of it, Shadow declared, as sounds of explosions resonated not far from them. Off in the distance the family could see a black blur destroying countless minor demons left and right, while several blonde figures were either blasting out high-level wind techniques or making the biggest Rasengan that any of them had ever seen. Don't worry. Other than some friendly fire, you aren't in any danger at all. Some? A voice wondered, as a powerful blast of green fire passed near them. Kazama had returned, helping a wounded Kakashi walk. Chibaku and Zabuza were following them, the first supporting Sasori's damaged top and the second struggling to keep his balance with the help of his damaged blade. That's a bit of an understatement, the teen observed. The landscape is burning. Some, Shadow repeated. Believe me, they can do far more damage. Ghost is perhaps the strongest entity in the whole multiverse, and his blonde copy of you guys is already so strong that he's taken Gaara, the Sanbai, and the container of the Gobi out already. The group frowned, and the raven-haired girl raised an eyebrow. You're not surprised? Normally the people of your worlds tend to be a bit caught off guard by learning that. We have already met someone able to kill Bijou, Chibaku muttered ominously. We even fought him, or to be more exact, were beaten by him. Huh? The woman muttered, clearly more curious than surprised by this supposedly outrageous fact. Was it a ninja? They all nodded. Fuck. Wonder who the hell managed to get that big of a power boost. I mean, our brat's version of Madara has other half of the Kyuubi in him, but still he shouldn't be able to actually truly kill a spiritual entity with that much power. Kitsune frowned as he observed the battle raging between Kishin and the self-proclaimed Feral Gale. The boy this time had just made a massive rune sword composed of solid wind chakra out of his arms that was at least 10 times the size of the monster he was fighting and was about to deal some serious damage to the already wounded demon lord. The monster managed to barely get out of the way of the attack, which seemingly had no trouble tearing through the earth and creating tremendous torrents of wind in its wake, which in turn scratched and blew back the creature in the process. Kishin managed to regain his bearing, however, rode the jet stream as it continued to scratch his body relentlessly, and countered with a fire attack that was more akin to unleashing a sea at the boy rather than a simple blast. In turn, the boy managed to weave multiple seals at a rate that matched Kakashi's and created a thick black wall of rock to block the attack. Despite the overwhelming power of the Green Inferno, the wall somehow managed to do the impossible and split the sea into 2 streams that flooded outwards away from him. Had the Watchers not been safe on the hills situated to the side of the battle, they would have without a doubt been killed in the backlash, as anything caught in the path of the Emerald Sea was immolated without a trace. The grass that covered the earth went up so quickly that no one had a chance to see it burn, and the trees that littered the area turned into giant vertical stalks of burning charcoal. The very idea that the Blonde's wall had managed to hold up against such an attack and even divide it into 2 streams was nothing short of absurd. Yet despite the severity of the situation, the boy surprisingly enough did nothing more about it, as he was surrounded on most sides by the green flames and instead casually crossed his arms and leaned back against the wall as if he was napping. Kishin saw that his attack wasn't doing anything soon enough and stopped trying to melt it reluctantly by shutting his mouth with a large clack. Growling angrily, the beast attempted to maintain his distance and shoot several of his tail darts at the structure to see if it was strong enough to take a physical attack, but much to his surprise, halfway through the projectile's flight path they all veered in odd directions and missed the target completely. To most people the feat wouldn't have been that interesting if it weren't for the fact that each spike tore up the earth a great deal when it landed. By the time all the spikes had stopped, there were at least half a dozen trenches that could easily hide a platoon of men spread out in several directions. "Holy crap, you suck at this!" The kid behind the wall laughed loudly and naturally, as if what he just saw was the funniest thing he had ever seen. "How the hell were you made a demon general with aiming like that?" Finally losing enough control over his temper to realize that his next decision was probably a bad one, Kishin let loose a savage roar and charged forward at the structure in front of him, attempting to plow through it with his bare claws and get to the source of his frustration. However, this indeed turned out to be the wrong move, as somehow the blonde on the other side of the wall could tell what the hell it was doing. By the time the lizard had reached the wall, he was hammered by another massive Rasengan even bigger than the demon that plowed through the structure that he was going to destroy. It did not surprise many when the ball exploded loudly and launched the very wounded demon very far in the opposite direction he was traveling just moments before. "Damn it, this version of the kid is ridiculous," Zabuza grunted, probably remembering how easily he and his allies were taken out at once by the monster. He turned to the newcomers. "Who the hell are you?" Shadow's response was a large smirk, one that chilled Kitsune to the bone. "Me, I am the second origin, the voice of Zuzushi, the ruler of shadows, one of the true gods, and one of the strongest beings in the multiverse. But you can just call me." Her smile widened. "Shadow. Your bijou, if you have them, must know who I am. The minions nearly shit himself when I talked to him for the first time." There was a long silence, and then, "Never heard of you," Chibaku said sheepishly, making Shadow fall on the ground comically. "Yeah, my Kyuubi has no idea of who you are either," Iruko added. Kitsune himself had no idea of what the voices were thinking, and honestly didn't care. "Sorry, but, sorry," she snapped, red with childish rage. "I'm a freaking legend. The container of the Sky Mother. I freaking kick God's asses when I hit that time of the month. Dude, where's my respect?" Everyone dropped their jaw at the outburst. She pointed her finger at the creature that had identified herself as Zuzushi. "That is the Sky Mother, granddaughter of the first dragon, one of the oldest demons ever, a god so ancient that most gods don't remember what he looks like, and an existence that is so ambiguous that it is beyond your, and still my, comprehension and ability to pronounce correctly. Gods and otherworldly beings tend to scream like small children when she shows up without warning. And then, she pointed at her brother who was still manually stabbing each and every demon he came across in the face without issue as if the activity was natural as breathing. That's Ghost. The cursed memory. The only mortal base being in the multiverse able to beat Suzushi without help. Hell, he's practically the apocalypse incarnate. Last time I checked, the other gods were still spreading propaganda about that. She glared at the Erasure clan. How can you not have heard of us? I thought all high-ranking demons were supposed to have some sort of links to their world's gods and other multiversal information sources. Ethereal existences are worse gossips than elderly British women. This shouldn't be new news. You didn't create the universe. Nobody did. The woman looked sideways dangerously and locked eyes with a fearful Chibaku. Come again? At the dawn of time. He muttered. There was only emptiness, darkness were ruling in absolute control and order, but in a one brief instant, chaos came in the form of the movement of yin and yo, positive and negative, shattering the darkness control forever, giving birth to life and action, to matter and existence, to the kami. The boy continued stubbornly. And in the end, to humanity. He smirked. No god created the universe, it only came into being by itself, and then created the kami. At least, that is what the Kyuubi says. He quickly added as Shadow gritted her teeth. Same thing with my own. Naruto declared. Gods are only inventions of man, it says. Bullshit. Shadow cursed darkly. I'm actually connected to the beginning. So much so that in some circles I am actually considered another source for all there is that has yet to come. There's no way what you said is right unless. Her eyes narrowed as her mind went down a series of thought processes. Unless, no, that would be impossible. But if your absolute power is an unknown factor instead of. She looked around with a sharp look in her eyes, absent of any of her childish demeanor that she had before. Which one of you is responsible for this mess? Kazama frowned. I am. How did you tear space apart? Did you create a large enough fourth-dimensional resonance that reality temporarily deconstructed and reconstructed itself into a wormhole phenomena? Or are you able to push and influence fifth-dimensional flows enough that you can jump? Obviously you aren't using a subtle approach, or this clusterfuck here wouldn't be happening in the first place. She rapidly inquired, spewing out multiple scientific terms as she stared at him analytically before pausing and shaking her head. No, never mind. We'll talk shop later when things calm down a bit. There are still a few almost dead ones here after all. Not bothering to watch the woman heal Kakashi and Zabuza, Kitsune stared at the battle in the distance. He was impressed. The counterpart and the demon had foregone elemental warfare and were now just attempting to kill one another manually. Normally one would think that this would be fairly simple for the demon since he was literally over twice the size of his opponent. But that didn't seem to be the case as the smaller of the two seemed to control the fight completely. They watched as the boy stepped inside the beast's guard when it tried to swipe him with one of his monstrous claws, and used its attempt to knee him with his tree-trunk-sized legs as leverage to rapidly gain height until he was right in front of the demon's face and blew a raspberry into the creature's eyes. For a moment it looked like the fight was over for the boy when Kishin attempted to crush him in between his massive claws, causing a loud boom that could be heard and felt by everyone there. However, at the last moment the blonde somehow managed to suddenly push himself back out of the monster's reach and hover just outside of his massive claws. Oddly enough, despite being so close to the source of the minor explosion, he did not seem fazed in the slightest if the confident grin on his face was any indication. The assault didn't end there though, as the hands in front of the demon's face opened to reveal Kishin in the process of breathing out another massive torrent of flames at point-blank range. But the boy once again somehow moved in mid-air without any sign that he was going to, though not unmarred as his left arm got slightly scorched by the fire that he barely dodged. This time the boy dashed in a circular motion to find himself behind his opponent, missing the attack that continued forward, taking out another good portion of the army he had summoned, and torching half of a nearby mountain in the process. Still, Kishin was not a demon lord due to strength alone. He had been caught from behind enough times to develop a natural reaction to an enemy there, and it was shown as his barbed tail almost instinctively whipped to attack the foe to his six. Unfortunately for Kishin, his opponent was far stronger and more durable than the majority of the demons he had encountered in his life, as the blonde actually caught the massive tail. Skidding back a few dozen feet from the blow before stopping, the boy gave no sign of slowing down his counter-assault and gave the demon a severe case of whiplash as he spun the beast around his head and displaying monstrous strength before slamming him onto the ground with enough force to crack the earth several times over. Not stopping there, the blonde kept up the assault and conjured up several dozen clones that jumped up into the air. Each of the copies then created a massive wind blade above their heads by clasping their hands together before pointing them all down and nailed the beast into the earth, causing it to roar in rage and pain that could clearly be heard by anyone in a 10-mile radius of the event. The original stood to the side and watched Kishin with what the observers could only assume was a contemplative look before sighing to himself and slowly, and somewhat shakily, rising up into the sky until he was several dozen meters above his opponent. While the execution wasn't that impressive, it didn't help distract the others from realizing that the person in front of them was actually flying. As if that wasn't enough, the boy then held out his arm and grabbed it with another and began to channel a massive amount of chakra to it. Slowly a massive Rasengan appeared in his hand, but there was something different about it. It began to emit a high-pitched shrieking sound. It was powerful. It was terrifying. It was unstable and blew up in the user's face with a blast that could be felt by everyone, launching him a good distance away and forcing him to hit the earth hard. "Log damn it!" The watchers heard the teen yell in obvious irritation as he picked himself out of the crater his body had made. "I had it! I fucking had it that time! I was so close to using it one-handed in the field! Gah!" They blinked in confusion as the boy jumped into the air with rage and flew to his previous spot above the now struggling and raging demon. Unlike last time though, the boy made a clone that floated in the air next to him before once more conjuring up the massive Rasengan. However, the clones seemed to be helping by adding wind chakra. Kazama muttered in confusion. "A two-person technique? But he already used a clone to make Rasengan." The teen's eyes widened as he realized what was off about what he just said. This version of didn't need a clone in order to make Rasengan or any of the larger versions. Did this mean that stably adding an element to it would require another clone to perform? Does that mean that it is possible to reach that level himself just by mastering the element, and using another clone in the process? He was broken out of his musings when he saw the sphere grow larger and larger with what seemed like a rapidly spinning rotor of blades around the ball, shrieking with power and intensity. He could feel the wind from where he was, and without a doubt the traveler could tell that the demon recognized that this was a finishing move. The ball was as large as the boy now as he held it above his head, and each blade was nearly 5 times the length of the diameter of the ball. The wind was so severe near the boy that the beginnings of a small twister were taking form around him, fueled by the monstrous technique. "Wind release, Rasen Shuriken!" The powerful variant cried as he actually threw the massive spinning disc straight at the frantically struggling demon. Incredible. That was the only way that Kitsune could describe the explosion and storm that was created from the technique once it struck the demon and was set off, unleashing all the energy that had until then been focused into the form it had been in. The discharge had even taken the shape of a massive contained sphere, but despite the light it gave off, the watchers could still see everything inside of it get torn and ripped to shreds piece by piece. The blonde could see the roaring silhouette of Kishin in the middle of the sphere disintegrate right in front of him before the wind the attack kicked up reached him, and he had to cover his eyes or risk getting blinded. They had only bothered to risk looking again when the air had calmed and the noise had finally died down. What met their eyes was their counterpart was standing, albeit a bit winded, in the middle of a massive crater where Kishin had previously been pinned down. "He is so strong," Kitsune whispered in disbelief. Kazama nodded. "Yeah, he is. Stronger than all of us." Then he scowled. "This power should have been ours." Something in the teen's gaze chilled Kitsune to the bone. They were so focused on their counterparts' display, none of them noticed that the summoned army of demons suddenly get slashed to minuscule pieces in a single instant, and their remains disintegrate into dust in the wind in the next. All that remained was the supposed immortal man that had been fighting them, yawning widely and standing unharmed, the puppet master, Sasori. So, let's see if I got this right. The Feral Gale, another stupid nickname, in Sasori's humble opinion, said, "You are, like us, a group of dimensional travelers, and like us, you have been forced into insane adventures and fight against really powerful beings. Unlike my end, though, you have no idea what you are doing, what is going on, and so far have had no one to give you all the details on why this is happening." "Unfortunately," Kazama replied. They had, after the events on the plains, entered the village Kishin had attempted to destroy to begin his conquest of ruling this dimension. After reserving the whole terrace of a restaurant with the money of the one called Ghost, much to his dismay, the whole group, including Suzushi, had sat and ordered for food. Obviously, the presence of the latter had scared just about everyone except the cook and the waitresses away. This was obviously not a place that hosted many supernatural creatures. Not that Sasori really cared. Chibaku was currently helping him rebuild his body, much to the waitress's horror, and he had listened to the discussion with utmost concentration. He had too, since these people were apparently to him what the puppeteer was to ants. 3 Uchiha Madara. Ghost muttered. "That blows. One's bad enough for you guys given your current levels, but 3, and one of them has the Rinnegan, and another a bijou killing technique. Talk about overkill." He smirked. "Reminds me of the time I messed with Aizen, Sephiroth, and Darkseid at the same time. Ah, good times." "Who are you talking about?" Kakashi asked, voicing everyone's thoughts. "No one of importance." Ghost shrugged, as he devoured a small cake. "What is more important is how the hell did you ended up here? More importantly, how you managed to open a permanent portal to one of the fiendish plane by accident, just like that. But of course," he smirked, "Shadow is taking care of figuring that out." "Does it hurt, boss?" Naruto asked, concerned about her elder's current situation. Kazama shook his head. "I have been in worse situations before." Well, Sasori certainly didn't doubt about that. The teen was surprisingly calm for someone strapped on a table, without a shirt, and having his belly examined by a raven-haired woman who was apparently not so interested in his well-being. If the puppeteer hadn't known better, he would have seen the scene as some kind of sadomasochist relationship, or something worse. "And honestly, it's not really unpleasant," he added, as Shadow touched his skin. "As long as you ignore the fact that everyone is watching you." Suzushi snorted as she tore into a slab of meat. "Believe me, it happens more often than one would think. But generally there is blood involved." The Feral Gale nodded as if there was nothing wrong with what he just said. "Still, I wonder what you went through if you actually somewhat enjoy this situation. I mean with Arrow and I. What happens in kinky sex time with Anko and Hana stays in kinky sex time with Anko and Hana." Ghost shouted with authority. "And forevermore I will knock on doors before I enter someone's room." The strongest blonde shivered, traumatized by his memories. Let's just say that having Orochimaru break your seal while you are in the middle of a transformation is a little more painful. Kazama sighed, resigning himself to the fact that his new friends were more than a bit touched in the head. A good thing that Sarutobi killed him in our world then. Second time's the charm. Ghost shrugged before turning to his sister. "You should feel yourself lucky, brat. The last time she was so focused on a man's belly was when she was with her ex. Shit." Suzushi raised her eyebrows in horror, the Feral Gale paled dramatically, and Shadow did nothing. Obviously, whatever the man had just said was taboo. The cursed memory began to shiver. "She's not responding. 'Tis a bad omen. Normally a slip would leave me absolutely annihilated," Suzushi suggested. "Maimed and ripped to shreds, several times?" his apprentice added. "Yeah, something like that." The master laughed nervously before turning to Kazama. "Damn kid, your seal must be one hell of a clusterfuck on your gut if she's so focused that she didn't hear me." Sasori frowned. "Care to elaborate?" "Believe me, you're better off not knowing." Ghost laughed. "Unless you want to share the pain I'm bound to suffer soon, it's better not to ask." Silence. So, Haku trailed off. You are, if I understand well, the equivalent of gods? Sort of, the man replied. We are members of the Oigakuri clan, or well, that's what we're calling ourselves for now. We're monstrously powerful humans that are further boosted by Zuzushi, making us, sort of human-shaped deities tasked to keep her company and rein her in if she does something stupid. Zuzushi, on the other hand, is a monstrously powerful goddess, the creator of the multiverse. He raised his hand as Chibaku and Naruto opened their mouths. And it has already been proven. I don't know what your Kyuubi are talking about, but they are either lying or ignorant of the truth. But what is exactly the multiverse? Kakashi asked. We journeyed through it without really understanding what it is. Sasori was immediately all ears, much like the rest of the Erasure clan. Basically, if a single universe is like a tale, then the multiverse would be accurately described as multiple tales that run along one another without intersecting most of the time, like a giant library of stories. The godlike man explained, it doesn't stop there though, as each story can have multiple, if not infinite variants which also qualify as their own individual universe. The immortal paused and looked around to see that only roughly half of his audience was actually getting the full picture. Okay, let me put it in a different way. Imagine that the history of the world is one that is narrated orally. Everyone that listens to it will then narrate his own version, with some modifications. It can vary from details to whole plot twists to an outright different tale with another conclusion, and none of the characters are the same, but the core fact is that they are always different from everyone else's. Each universe is a version of one reality consisting of one of these stories, and they are all different in one way or another. Basically, it all boils down to the ever-present what if. What if? Sasori asked, beginning to understand. What if a rock had fallen on this person's head? What if a doctor had chosen to become an artist instead? What if a god had chosen another person as his champion? What if someone had lifted his finger while sleeping? What if you guessed true on a test instead of false? The list continues on indefinitely. He smirked. Basically, for each possibility and chain of possibilities that can possibly exist, a new world is created. And as there are many, many tales in existence, each with their own variants, Suzushi continued, the end result is an infinite number of different tales, each with an infinite number of variations, and they all form a great tapestry we call the multiverse. One that I take all credit for making, thank you very much. So, Chibaku trailed off. To put it simply, we're all like characters from a tale escaping from our version and inviting ourselves into another? Like us, Ghost confirmed. We are like living, self-aware pieces of a chess game inviting ourselves onto one chessboard, and introducing randomness and the unknown factors to an otherwise completely ordered and planned game to make a new variant. We are immune to fate, or the people that move and influence the other pieces, and thus its worst enemies. He paused before grumbling to the side about fate being an ugly-ass bitch and not leaving him alone. Cool, Chibaku muttered. That's awesome, Naruto shouted. Naruto Uzumaki, the multiverse's most surprising and unpredictable ninja of all times. Haku, Kitsune and Kazama grinned sheepishly at that, but Sasori only frowned. I assume it's not always a good thing. Of course not. Ghost snorted. When you screw with fate, anything can happen. A hero's planned death can be averted, but a bastard's awaited defeat can also be prevented by accident as well. You have to remember that even though that there are multiple worlds and themes, literally anything can still happen, both pleasant and not. Thankfully my family has had enough experience that we know what the hell we're doing now so that we can keep clusterfucks to a minimum, but trust me on this. Things have still gone horrifically wrong on us more than we'd like to admit. He smiled sadly. Believe me, it really sucks when you have tried really hard to help someone you actually like, and instead accidentally not only caused his death, and the death of just about everyone, but you wound up saving some evil overlord asshole who then proceeded to take over the reality you were trying to save. It would indeed be crushing, to see a lifetime's worth of effort being all for naught, Sasori thought. It's exactly what I had felt when the Sandaime had broken my dreams. But anyway, The cursed memory continued, turning to Kazama again. From what I pieced together, your story isn't so different than the one of my apprentice, though with a few key differences. Orochimaru and the Akatsuki are still doing their thing, Jinchuriki are still treated like crap, and the Civilian Council and Danzo are still out for your BLO dash. This is mostly true, except the last part. Sasori interrupted. There is no Civilian Council, and Danzo is not so hostile, or at least our information doesn't indicate he is. Many clan heads, like Hayashi Hyuga and Shikaku Nara, are the masterminds behind a conspiracy targeting the Kyuubi's vessels. Both Ghost and the Feral Gale raised their eyebrows, with different degrees of surprise. Hinata's dad? The new Naruto wondered. Well, I did say there were differences. The cursed memory muttered before looking at his disciple. Don't worry, they aren't bastards at your home. Pretty nice guys, when we aren't screwing with them at least, and so long as we keep Crypt away from them. Kazama didn't seem to agree, but kept his mouth shut for a short moment. By the way, how did you end up helping my counterpart? Ghost grinned. Well, it all started when I teleported into his soul while being drunk out of my skull. Everyone dropped their jaw, well, except Shadow, Suzushi, and the Feral Gale. The first didn't even react, the second smirked, and the third grinned sheepishly, completely embarrassed. What? Well, in case you haven't understood yet, Shadow is a bit bipolar. Ghost chuckled. I made a joke on her weight. He briefly stared at the girl, who was still ignoring him, and ran the fuck away, escaping to another dimension when she cornered me. Long story short, I ended up interrupting a bijou extracting process, with Naruto in the middle. I was pretty much dead because of Danzo's betrayal at the last second, and Akatsuki ended up capturing me. The Feral Gale continued darkly. Ero and I. Chibaku raised an eyebrow at the nickname, then used his powers to make us jump back in time, and help me avert many future tragedies, while training me. I may look like I'm 14, but mentally I'm closer to 18. He paused before glaring at Kazama. I miss being tall, damn it. Under normal circumstances, Sasori would have said that time travel was physically impossible, but since it was a deity, or someone as close as you could be, that was talking, it was probably the truth. Finished. Everyone stared at Shadow, who leaned back into her chair and began compulsively eating the pile of candy in front of her. I'm going to devour the whole restaurant's reserve. No, the whole town's. She muttered to herself before locking eyes with Kazama. Conrads, Mr. I stole the power of a god. You can officially warp reality to the fifth dimension, and if you can't yet change the way the world is pieced together, then you will soon. Silence. The girl continued to eat, apparently unconcerned with the current situation. Care to explain? Ghost asked curiously. Other than you being able to create on the seventh dimension and me being able to destroy on that level, I don't think I've heard of anyone with the ability to accidentally get anything that screws around with the fabric of reality above the fourth. The kid has drained a part of Death's power. Shadow explained before eyeing the travelers lazily. You all know that the Shinigami is responsible for the creation of the seal, right? Well, apparently, in this kid's particular multiverse, the Shini-multiverse? Ghost blinked, surprised. Shit, that explains a lot. Yeah, you heard that right, they don't come from our multiverse, but from another. The woman commented. Sasori blinked, and he wasn't the only one. Suzushi's eyes narrowed. That makes sense. There are infinite multiverses in existence that share common phenomena much in the same way that alternate realities do so. However, traveling between that particular gap is rather uncommon. I just happen to be one of the few entities that is capable of manifesting a multiverse. However, I am not conceited enough to actually believe I am the only one able to do so, nor do I doubt that some may have manifested by sheer chance. I just never bothered to look around to look for others. It does sound crazy. Shadow continued, but just as there are an infinite number of variations of one universe, there are an infinite number of variations of the multiverse, where some deepest core rules are different as well. What if the Shinto creation myth were correct? What if Suzushi wasn't the one that created the multiverse? What if no god had created the multiverse? What if a godlike maniac had succeeded in annihilating the multiverse? Etc. etc. The base foundation of simultaneous balanced energy, physical, and temporal manifestation can be pretty finicky at times, so it does make sense theoretically. Naruto bit her lip. I haven't understood everything, me too, Kitsune pointed out. I don't care, Shadow replied. Now can you just shut your mouths and let me finish my explanation? Her tone indicated to everyone that refusal to obey would have deadly consequences, so everyone fell silent. Again. The general version of your universe's Shinigami in our multiverse is, well, not weak, but simply incompetent at his job. Shadow continued, and while he did make a seal as strong as your own, there were some small complications, although that may have been another what-if scenario. The Shinigami of your multiverse, which is what your universe's version is, a fragment of his first, far more powerful than ours, and is more importantly constantly powering the seals, holding back the Kyuubi instead of simply slapping down the mark, twisting the rules of time and space with the seal to do the hard work for him, putting in a bit of power to keep everything in place, and calling it a day, which is what ours did. She looked at all the blondes in the room. This goes for all of your seals, and it completely prevents the Kyuubi from tearing it apart or controlling its container. But when Orochimaru twisted your seal, he created an imbalance within it. She sighed, and eyed Kazama. From what I can tell, your Kyuubi had more or less passed half of its chakra through the seal in your fight, and a good lot of its mind as well. But the shit hit the fan when Orochimaru closed it literally on top of all that power. It created an unstable void inside the seal, one that had to be filled. So the seal, to stay in place, acted like a pump, and filled the void with the only energy it had a full access to, the Shinigami's power. She touched the seal. Then, your parents managed to fix the seal while it was still draining the god's power and open it up again to pull back the rest of your demon's juice. This sent the Kyuubi's chakra back into the seal, inadvertently causing a massive feedback and overload. This in turn forced the Kyuubi's chakra that the seal had been slammed closed upon to rage around into the very foundations of the seal itself, messing with it even more. The woman stretched and leaned back into her chair with a tired sigh. In the end, despite the odds of it literally blowing you up with both demonic and god-based power, it managed to regain its stability by adapting its form with the Yandame's help. But this time, the locations of the energies inside you had been reversed. The Kyuubi's chakra is now powering the seal, holding back the Shinigami's essence. Shadow then touched one of the 9 circles with a spiral inside. These 9 drawings are the sealed tails of the Kyuubi, who has been reduced to a state of mindless chakra. The eye is the trapped Shinigami's essence. She smirked. Your seal isn't a transportation device. It's a filter that prevents the formidable energy kept behind it from overwhelming and consuming you, much like the original seal did for the Kyuubi. The cursed memory nodded in comprehension. Makes sense. It's unlikely as hell, but it does sound logical. Explains the strange void in your soul that I sensed earlier too. Anyway, Shadow coughed. The basic functions of the seal are still there, it's just what is kept inside has changed. It still has the functions: tap in the power when the wielder is in danger, or tap in it if the wielder wants it. Kazama, meanwhile, had gone pale. You mean that teleporting between worlds is simply one of the Shinigami's many abilities that you are instinctively using by channeling the power kept in the seal because it is the easiest to control? Shadow confirmed, before beginning to eat another chocolate bar. But since you aren't born with it, your hold over it is fragile. The more you are using it in short succession, the more the seal assumes you're in danger, the more it taps into the power, and the more your transportation becomes hazardous. When you tried to escape from this Sharingan forest, you pulled out so much power that instead of jumping into an alternate universe, you teleported in another multiverse, badly damaging the fabric of reality in the process. She swallowed her food, and opening an unstable yet still permanent side portal between this reality and a fiendish plane, aka hell. The girl smirked. You should consider yourself very lucky. You might have created a black hole instead, or fused this plane with hell, or even destroyed them both altogether. She gave the boy a cold and unwavering glare. Listen well, kid. You must never, And I say never use your power when it is not safe to do so, or else the consequences would be cataclysmic for you and the world around you. A pot containing ink and a brush appeared out of nowhere. I'm gonna make another seal for you that will act as a timer, indicating how much time it will take for you before your current seal is ready to allow you to safely travel. How much will I have to wait, approximately? Kazama asked curiously. Depends, she replied with a careless shrug. It can go from a few hours to days. It's quite difficult, since most of the seal's working is still a bit mixed up from the initial breakdown, even to me. My brother Crypt could have probably found the pattern, stabilized it, and given you a pretty sweet upgrade, but he's off doing who knows what right now. She sighed. Damn freaking idiot and his obsession with the floor. Sasori scowled. If jumping into different worlds in quick succession is now impossible then Madara is going to track us down sooner than we all expected. Kazama finished. The teen stared at the self-proclaimed Oegakari clan. Can you help us deal with them? Ghost's expression immediately told Sasori that the answer was going to be negative. Shadow briefly blinked, and Suzushi had frowned. No, the dragoness declared. It was not a decision. It was a fact. Why? The teen asked vehemently, the rest of his group staring at the scene silently. You are out of my jurisdiction, the deity replied. Under normal circumstances, I would have gladly aided you, since your enemies seem to be quite the challenge and interesting fight. But as long as they haven't put a foot in my multiverse, they are not my problem. If I were to go into your multiverse, whatever pantheon ruling it could interpret it as an attempted invasion and respond with force. It could easily end up escalating to a cosmic war, or worse, bring the attention of alien evil deities upon us all, possibly as strong as myself, though I doubt there are many existences that fit that category. She glared at Kazama. Despite my position as this multiverse's creator, I am far from omnipotent. There are other gods here that require that I keep an eye on lest they do something stupid that will take forever to correct. Leaving, even for a short time, might encourage them to strike and damage the stability here while I am away. And let's not talk about the fact that your simple presence here is increasing all these possibilities with each passing second. So no, I can't help you. I don't mind a good fight, Shadow declared, but honestly, I think that you should leave as soon as possible, or at least, only you, Mr. Kazama. Why? Sasori asked. Because the divine essence he contains is an alien element here, she explained. No one knows what sort of anomalies a prolonged leak of it can cause in our multiverse, since it hasn't really happened before. Crypt might have created a good filter, but he'll take too much time to find and get off his ass, especially when he doesn't want to do anything. Ghost finished. The Feral Gale frowned. What about me? He asked. I'm not bound by anything. I can help out. You are not at the level needed to fight one Madara yet, let alone 3. His master said. You're strong enough to take out a Biju and maybe a Kaiga with some luck, but you still need time to grow, mature, and gain more experience. I can probably follow these guys' trails to their multiverse if needed with my powers, but for now they're on their own. He put on a small grin. Well, on second thought, we can mess with the route they take if they travel to our multiverse so that the Madara will take longer to get to them. I'm thinking of rerouting them through a Care Bear world. I see. Kazama trailed off with despair in his voice. I understand. He muttered. I understand too much well, and I have to act on that. The teen stared at his group. Everyone, you will stay in this world. Boss Dash. Naruto began, but her teacher interrupted her. I'm the only one that the Madara are after, he declared. We won't be able to defeat them, that is sure, but here, they won't come after you, and you will be safe. He stared at Shadow. I need to be a bit alone for a while. Could we get some privacy? She nodded, before grabbing her brother's arm in a vice-like grip. Ghost. The man began to sweat profusely, knowing that something painful was going to happen to him soon. Yes? It will take me around 12 minutes to find this guy and put the seal on him, but it will take at least 12 hours of torture for you to atone for insulting my weight and speaking about my relationship with the prick. Please patiently follow us and wait for your punishment while I finish working. The cursed memory paled, and then ran away as fast as he could, or rather tried, since his limbs didn't move. Idiot. Shadow muttered as her shadow fused with Ghost's. You really think that after spending so much time teaching Shikamaru about the true nature of darkness manipulation, he wouldn't remind me of some of the older tricks I used to do? Fuck. The doomed man shouted frantically. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Yeah, sucks to wait, but don't worry, I'm going to keep an eye on you. She chirped, before teleporting away with Kazama and the cursed memory before anyone could react. Sasori hated to admit it, but the look on Ghost's face was terrifying, to say the least. The traveler, Kazama, was staring at a nocturne sky, trying to ignore Ghost's screams, as he was receiving a brutal beat down from Shadow. Strangely, despite the sheer insanity of the two, he couldn't care less about them. They didn't want to help them, so they didn't deserve his attention. He had the power he needed. I have the power of a god, he realized. After years of depending on the Kyuubi, now I am depending on the Shinigami. Is it fate? Divine intervention? Pure luck? But if for each possibility there is a world born of it, can we really talk about luck? Are we really free to decide our future? I have free will, he thought, as a mechanical squeak resonated inside his mind. If the world is guided by fate, and that I am free of it, then does it mean that I am really human? Am I not closer to godhood? When I have the power and the freedom of a god, who is to say that a god am I not? What am I thinking? He wondered, as the sound ended. I am raving, it's only a disillusion. I am beginning to think like Orochimaru, and I know how it turned out for him. I am just human, and it's better off like that. I wouldn't trust myself with the role. With great power comes great responsibility, after all, and I don't even control it that well to begin with. His head jerked to the side, and he saw Naruto standing behind him. Boss, it took a lot of time to find you, she began. Can I sit with you? Of course, he complied, while ignoring Ghost's desperate high-pitched screaming in the background. Kazama didn't know what Shadow was currently doing to him, and actually didn't want to know. Trying to reason with these mad, egoistical gods was a waste of time, though they have been a bit helpful, Kazama admitted as he looked at the seal on his left palm. It looked like an eye, with the number 12 inside. Naruto also stared at it. How does it work? She asked. It indicates the number of hours before it's safe to teleport, he explained. When hits 0, then the different energies are balanced, he quoted Shadow. And then I can teleport without any problem. It's quite precise. The blonde girl trailed off. I mean, I can't still believe you have the power of a deity sealed in you. She bit her lip. Though it's just as incredible as containing a bijou. I know, he responded. But with all the craziness that happened, I can't find the energy to be troubled. Nothing is going to surprise me anymore after that. I wouldn't bet on it, a new voice said. Believe me, this day was only borderline normal for me. Ever become the leader of 3 revolutions overnight without knowing it? Trust me, it sucks. The duo tilted their head to the side, just in time to see the feral Gale sit down beside them. Sometimes I wonder if I did a good thing by accepting that training trip. No Hinata, no Rookie 12, only insane companions and a lot of problems that I have no idea how to approach. He smirked. Though we are somewhat alike about that last part, yes. Kazama trailed off. But unlike us, you can actually defend yourself properly against your enemies. Your power. Naruto Uzumaki's power should have been ours, he thought, as insidious, secret whispers resonated inside his skull. It should have been our own by right. It should have been mine. I am a bit envious, he declared. I mean, I am older than you, and yet I'm still weaker than you. His look darkened. I wasn't strong enough to fight Madara. But with the Shinigami's power, everything will be fine. With it, I will erase them from creation, and everyone that will oppose me shall be crushed under my heel. With it, I will reach true perfection. Technically, I'm older than you, the feral Gale pointed out. I was brought back in time right after fighting, and losing, against Madara and virtually half of Akatsuki at once with practically half of Konoha's strongest at my back, meaning that I have 3 to 4 more years or so of experience than you, and you didn't get the same training I did. You can still become a badass if you work at it though. You are me after all. He smirked before putting on a serious face. But seriously, don't do what I did. He began to shiver. Being locked in an industrial freezer in only my boxers for over 12 hours at a time and forgetting to tell me what the hell I was supposed to be doing in order to survive. Getting thrown off a cliff constantly for over 2 weeks. And then there's the mental conditioning. Those guys are evil. He's right. Naruto exclaimed, ignoring the new addition's temporary mental breakdown. Keep confidence in yourself, boss. We aren't able to fight the Madara yet, but it doesn't mean we will never be able to do so. We hurt them, match them. They are not invincible. With hard work and determination, one day we will be able to defeat them. She's right, he realized, and the whispers vanished. I don't need the Shinigami's power to defeat them. I just have to develop my own way. I have to keep my hope up. It will take a lot of time, he declared, but in the end we will overcome them. With or without the Oigakuri's help. That's the spirit. The Pharaoh Gale replied, somehow already back to normal. If people are too dependent on saviors to rescue their ass, then there will never be any change. The general populace will just be spoiled assholes that way, and tyrants will always continue to show up and rise in power. You have to learn to earn your happy ending instead of waiting for someone to give it to you, or else you will never be able to control your own future. And so, I will shape my own. Kazama concluded. The Pharaoh Gale smiled before apparently sensing something and turned his head to the side to look back. It seems that you are going to have some company. I should leave, he said. Just remember you have friends here, and listen to what these guys have to say. See you next time. And he vanished in a puff of smoke. Seconds later, the duo received a visit from the rest of the Arisher clan. Everyone? Kazama wondered. What are doing here? Doing our job as family members, Kakashi said before putting a hand on the teen's shoulder. Naruto. I know that you must be quite disappointed by not receiving help and the like, and pretty disturbed by the whole seal deal. I am too. I still don't understand everything, but you can count on me. Who cares if they don't help us? We are more than a simple group. We are family, not by blood, but by unbreakable bond. Whatever obstacles and dangers the world will place on our way, we will overcome it together. I just want to say that this day won't change anything between us. Zabuza growled. Even with all the power in the world, you still suck, and I will do my best to correct that. So I'm still going to continue traveling with you. Now that we know the limits and potential of your abilities, Sasori said. It is obvious that the option of simply outrunning our pursuers is gone. I have a few ideas on how to beat them, or at least how to analyze their abilities, but you, and only you, are able to control your power, and I trust you with it. One day, you will be able to use it safely, and I will be at your side to witness it. Kazama-san. Haku trailed off. I have known despair as much as you do, and I have learned that there is always hope. It doesn't matter if we are alone, as long as we still fight and continue advancing, our future will always be better. She put her hand on his other shoulder. I will do my best to help you gain your future. You gave me a purpose, Kitsune declared. You gave me what I always desired. A family. Friends. Love. I will stay at your side until the end, and even after if I have to do so. Yeah, same here, Chibaku said. Guys, I know I'm not the most idealistic person around, but I am an eternal optimist. You will find a way to make things turn for the better, and I will help you with it. Yeah, me too, Naruto and I-san. Naruto whispered, as she hugged him. I'm going to stay at your side until the very end. Everyone. He muttered, tears rolling from his eyes. Thank you? Thank you very much. The broken man, Kakashi. So you are leaving already? Together? The cursed memory asked. He was covered with bandages, and eyeing Shadow fearfully, as if she was going to give him a repeat performance. Kazama nodded. I think it is time for us to return to our multiverse. We still have some problems to correct back in our home worlds. Personal problems. I see, too bad. Shadow muttered, Ghost snorted, before glancing at the Arisher clan and scratching the back of his head. Since we can't help you ourselves, I'll give you guys some tips to make things easier for you, somewhat. Shadow raised an eyebrow, amused. Oh? Be careful, brother. Don't want to spoil too much for them. The supposed stronger of the two ignored his sister. You will have to be careful with these two pieces of information, cause even though they're going to be fairly constant regardless of what world you're in, managing them in each world will vary due to the personalities of those involved and how much of an asshole they can be. Get on with it. Kazama grunted. You might want to get that temper looked at. Some gods, believe it or not, aren't that patient with backtalk. The immortal deadpanned before shrugging and got on with the topic of interest. Anyways, the first involves getting you guys to master your Biju's power. And like that, he had all of the family's attention. Get the help of the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi. He has absolute control of his beast, but you have to be careful with negotiating with the man's brother. He's a bit of an over-muscled emotional asshole. Naruto's eyes widened with surprise and hope. He can help us with controlling our Biju? Once again, it will vary on the mood of the man's brother, since he's even stronger than the Jinchuriki. Ghost pointed out, ignoring the looks of disbelief he was getting. I'll keep that in mind. Kazama nodded, probably admitting that the information he just received really was more valuable than he anticipated. And the other piece of information? That? Ghost frowned as he looked at all the versions of Naruto staring at him, before looking at Kakashi, Haku, Zabuza, and then, that? I'm only telling Sasori, me? Sasori blinked in confusion. Dare I ask why? You're the only one in the group that can be trusted with info like this. It's too dangerous to be widely known among the others yet, the immortal stated, ignoring the irritated looks that many of the others were giving him. This is something that should only be known after the others grow up or stabilize a bit more. I need to grow up? Zabuza growled as the puppet master walked up to the man and they held a private conversation. Unfortunately, the immortal had done something that prevented any sound from traveling in their direction, but the look of shock on Sasori's artificial face could not be hidden. Are you certain that this will be consistent throughout the worlds? Sasori asked skeptically. Considering what I know and how things tend to play out in your branch of worlds, you're more likely to come across a world where Naruto is a female and Zabuza is Mizukage than this not happening. The immortal nodded. Just remember, if the man I mentioned is dead, then the other one I told you about almost without a doubt will have one. And regardless of that, the latter will always be involved in some way with what you want to know, and what you never knew of in the first place. The players may change, but the system will almost always keep several key factors that he will know hands down. Sasori nodded as he began to walk back to the group. I will keep that in mind. You have certainly given me something to think about. I will see how fruitful your lead is in our travels. But what price do you demand for this? Oh, just the answer to a question, he said while grinning innocently. How skilled are you in particular at removing misapplied high-level seals? Pretty good, he responded skeptically. But not as much as I would like. I'm more competent at putting them than removing them. Okay. His smile widened. Thank you very much. What did he say? Kazama asked in an almost demanding tone, his eyes hungry for information as the red-headed puppet master returned. You will find out in time. Sasori mused, his eyes showing that he was thinking of something that interested him greatly. This is something that needs to be addressed, delicately. Suzushi snorted. Since there is nothing to say anymore, I'm going back to my island. All that love me follow. And then she passed through a newly opened portal. Not going to be many people, Shadow grumbled. But since I have already lost 1 day of vacation. She briefly looked back at the Arisher clan. Goodbye everyone, and the next time we meet, you better give me a lot of candy as a payment for my work. You're indebted to me, she shouted before leaving too. Duly noted, Kazama said, while both Ghost and the Feral Gale cringed. Why do I have the feeling that we are going to suffer for that? Kakashi thought. Dude, you have no idea of how much screwed you are all. The feral Gale shuddered. It's like signing your own death warrant. Ghost shook his head. Another man condemned to serve Shadow's sweet tooth for all eternity. Such a shame. Okay, maybe I just did something stupid, unfortunately. The cursed memory confirmed. But since you just offered me a good source of amusement in the future, I'm going to be nice and prevent you from wasting your juice for this first jump. Before anyone could follow his movements, the man took out one of his swords from seemingly nowhere and literally sliced open a nice and clean portal in the middle of the air in front of them. This should bring you back to your multiverse, if my calculations about the dimensional resonance are right, which they always are. He smirked. I'm one of the leading researchers when it comes to natural/metaphysical oscillation and wave pattern physics. So, what kind of world would you like? Would you by chance be interested in one where clothes are not invented? Those are always fun to visit at least once while dimension hopping. I suggest the Sharingan Forest world, Kakashi stated, attracting everyone's gaze. I have enough experience to know that a Sharingan is one of the only ways to counter another. Grabbing a few before teleporting away can be the key to defeat Madara. Too risky, Sasori said. Just think for a second. What if that the godly trio? He sneered. Managed to reach it? I have a way to test that. The cursed memory declared as the portal changed form and colors a bit. This portal will show us if the way is cleared or not. Thank, Kazama said. But why is it red? The cursed memory raised an eyebrow before turning to look into the portal. Kakashi imitated him, expecting to see a forest. Instead, there was only an inferno. The whole Sharingan forest was burning. The field of flowers had been reduced to a sea of ashes, and the trees were being consumed by flames of different colors. As one of them crawled on the ground toward the portal, its eyes crying black blood and covered with blue fire, even Kakashi shivered. It got worse when something big stomped on the tree's bark, shattering it. The creature looked like a giant mass of black threads having taken a humanoid, bulky form. A red dragon mask served as the monster's face, and was breathing blue fire from the muzzle, quickly incinerated the tree. A few meters away, a similar creature, wearing a purple featureless mask, was butchering armored plants by tearing through their armors with big shuriken made of a black metal. What the fuck? Chibaku wondered. Has someone decided to weed this place? Is it Kakuzu? The feral Gale wondered as he narrowed his eyes. That guy was a pain to kill the last time. A sinister chuckle answered their questions. A new figure appeared beside one of the masked creatures, and Kakashi scowled as he recognized the man's mismatched eyes. I can see you, dear prey. You! Naruto growled. Me, Susanoo declared. I certainly didn't expect to be able to see you through the veil of space, but apparently fate has decided to smile to me. Were you looking for the Sharingan? If so, then I'm sorry to disappoint you, he said as he stomped on a dying flower. But you won't find one in this place. We couldn't let these disgusting fakes live after so foolishly trying to eat us, after all. Well, then I assume we have nothing to say to you anymore, Kakashi said. Ghost, you can close the portal. You are going to leave so early? The Uchiha wondered from behind the gate, as he tried to pass his hand through it, only to pull it back severely burned. Ghost smirked. Sorry, no nut. People I don't like can't pass through my portals. I would like to say sorry, but it is so hard to resist the temptation to taunt you instead. How's the sanity thing going for you, by the way? Just between you and me, I hear that mass domination and destruction is considered boring and stupid by most megalomaniacal standards. You might want to change your goals if you want to stay with the cool kids. Little vermin, Susanoo muttered before staring at Kakashi. And I took so much time to prepare this little student-teacher reunion for you, Kakashi-san. Don't you want to see your students again? The man scowled. You are insane. They are dead, man, he stated, not noticing the feral Gale gazing at him with sadness. As dead as you can be. Really? Said Man asked, amused, as two new figures jumped at his sides. They begged to disagree. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi felt his blood freeze in his veins. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto and Sasuke repeated, their Sharingan and Rinnegan coldly eyeing the Jounin. Why have you abandoned us? Chapter 15. Lightning and Clouds. Passing through the portal, Kazama saw the cursed memory closing it a second later, leaving the Erasure clan to fend for themselves. He had already said he would, but the World Wanderer was still unhappy to have gained nothing but words out of this whole mess. True, he also obtained another seal and pretty important pieces of information, but still, well, at least Ghost affirmed the world he was sending them to was far away from the one where the Madara had rampaged, and that he would mess a lot with their travel. The cursed memory had declared that they were going to have a month or so of advance, or be left in peace forever, but Kazama wasn't so sure of it. The Madara could follow his trail through the veil of reality just like an Inuzuka would be able to smell his scent from the other side of the land of fire, pretty easily. Fortunately, this advance would help Kakashi deal with Susanu's latest crime. Eyeing the Jounin, Kazama had to admit that the man was coping well for someone whose students had just been reduced to puppets of flesh, in appearance. Anyone with sufficient awareness could see that the revelation had shaken Kakashi to his very foundations. His gaze was devoid of life and determination, he was as pale as a specter, and looked ready to fall unconscious on the ground any time. As the group walked toward the mountains where was hidden the Valley of Clouds and Lightning, the place where Ghost had guaranteed the container of the Hachibi was training, Kazama approached Kakashi. "Are you alright?" "I am, Naruto-san," he replied. "I'm just a bit tired." It was all a lie, of course. A few stray memories rushed through the blonde's mind, the ones that preceded their crossing of the portal. Kazama watched, as different emotions appeared on Kakashi's face. Shock, pain, horror, and then anger. Undiluted hatred, and the will to kill. Reacting quickly, Kazama restrained the enraged man with his chakra chains, preventing Kakashi from crossing the portal and falling into Susanu's obvious trap. The World Wanderer struggled a bit to keep the Jounin under control. "Kakashi-san, please calm down, you dare?" he shouted to Susanu, a Chidori forming in his left hand. "You dare!" "I dare!" the Uchiha gloated. "You had left these two bodies right in front of your last breach. It was such a tempting invitation. I couldn't resist." He chuckled, and put his hands on the two boys' shoulders. "It's not like they disagreed." "Kakashi-sensei," Sasuke began. "I should have known. I should have known that you were going to betray me, just like you betrayed my cousin Obito." Anger was replaced by surprise, and Kakashi paled deathly. "No. I did, you betrayed me." The possessed Naruto interrupted him. "You abandoned me at my birth, deprived me of the childhood that should have been my own. You betrayed my father's wishes." Tears began to roll from Kakashi's eyes. "I never wanted this, you were afraid," Susanu stated. "Ever since you were born, you were meant to be a failure, Kakashi. The son of another broken, useless tool, your fate was written in blood and tears." The Uchiha chuckled. "You are nothing more than a fraud, a dead man still walking. You bear the eye of my descendant, without deserving it. It is not true." He trailed off. Obito is dead because of you," Sasuke shouted. "Just as my family is. Why weren't you looking for me? Why didn't you help me? Why didn't you train me well? Why, Kakashi-sensei?" the possessed Naruto asked. "Why were you so selfish? Why couldn't you die instead of my father?" The last sentence immobilized Kakashi, making him look like a statue, much to Susanu's perverse amusement. "Why indeed? Because it is fate's will, my dears. Because fate cursed him to suffer for his own sins, and the ones of his father." Okay, once fate talking starts I have to step in to prevent this from getting all annoying and philosophically irritating. Ghost interrupted him, clearly not as disturbed or into the moment as the other dimension travelers. "I've had enough of this crap. Zombie children loved ones is a nice touch, but it's been done before more times than I can count. The immortal shook his head condescendingly at the three confused Madara. Have some creativity for once. He smirked and pointed at the portal lazily. As punishment, you three have to go through a small penalty game. The portal shattered upon itself, and the images of the three surprised Rinnegan wielders vanished. The cursed memory sighed and scratched the back of his frustrated. Simply using the dead as puppets is already pretty bad in terms of karma. Don't glare at me, Sasori-san, you know it's true to a degree. But this was done out of pointless cruelty to play mind games instead of doing it out of necessity. You guys have some really twisted fucks after you. He shook his head. Waltz would probably have annihilated them a few 100,000 times over for that shit they just pulled. But I managed to pull up a quick alternative punishment. What happened? Kakashi muttered, his gaze empty. What has he done to my students? This is one of the Rinnegan's main abilities. Ghost explained somewhat reluctantly, knowing that he should tone down his aloofness for the Scarecrow's sake. Its wielder can control up to 6 other dead bodies at once while slapping a different but specific overpowered ability onto each one, see through them, and use the Rinnegan's powers through them. It's a pretty messed up power, but it's still a rather strong one regardless as far as your worlds are concerned. He crossed his arms. Weird thing was that normally you needed those chakra rods in both yourself and the dead from the Geto Mizo in order to make it work. What kind of powers? Sasori asked. We need as much info as we can, so, well, the Rinnegan's powers are divided in 6 paths. Kazama ignored the conversation, putting his hand on the Jounin's shoulder. Kakashi-san, it's nothing, he said with a hollow tone. I'm used to this kind of things. You know, if you ever need to talk Abu Dash, it's very kind of you. The Jounin cut him off. But I told you it's alright. He sighed. I have had enough of wallowing the past, enough of receiving shit in the face again and again, enough of whining. This last event doesn't make me sad or depressed, Naruto-san. His only visible eye then stared into Kazama's own. It makes me furious. The cat, Yujito, the Valley of Clouds and Lightning, was arguably one of the most beautiful places in Kumo, tied with the snowy mountains in the north of the country. There was also the old tomb of the Wreakage, and the Turtle Island, where she had tamed the Nibi, like her fellow Jinchuriki. Yujito ni, the 18-year-old vessel of the Nibi, hated to admit it, but she was slightly jealous of Kumo's newest champion. Perhaps it was her cat-like nature, but she envied the boy for managing to dominate his beast faster than she had. This boy was only 12, and yet no one doubted he would be able to control his all-tails mode. He had just finished the ordeals of the Waterfall of Truth, fully dominating his bijou in the process and returning as the newest hero of Kumo. Some were even whispering he would end up replacing Killer Bee as the Hidden Cloud's guardian, a position that Yujito had been coveting since the moment she began to think for herself. But Yujito was anything but a coward. Even if she had to beat the Ninetales in a duel, she would get the position. Having found her to be compatible with the Nibi right after her 2nd birthday, Kumo's seal masters had immediately sealed the bijou within her, hoping her undeveloped body would adapt better to the infernal cat than an adult. Despite the disastrous results of the previous attempts at creating a stable Jinchuriki for the Nibi, it worked well for her. Somehow, the sealed bijou and the young girl had been able to socialize over their mutual existence as prisoners, and their confrontation at the Turtle Island had been more of playful duel more than anything. Being treated as an unstable, yet useful weapon for the village was not a situation Yujito had enjoyed, but finally earning people's respect had been something of a drug. The day she had seen them cheer her, if not outright kneel before her, had been the best day of her life. Finally, her parents were able to rest in peace, seeing their daughter become the hero they always wanted her to be. But even then, this adoration seemed empty. She was lonely. Beside her fellow Jinchuriki, the Wreakage and Bee's Genin team, nobody could really talk to her. To most people, she was some kind of distant, protecting figure, much like Killer Bee. She only enjoyed the company of very few friends. Her mentor's newest team, Samui, Karui and Omoi, with whom she had fought on the front lines. The Wreakage, the first adult to recognize her as a human being. His secretary, and her best friend, Mabui. But most of all, the oldest Jinchuriki of Kumo, the man named Killer Bee. And finally, there was the young blonde. And me, kitten? The Nibby asked, vexed. Have you forgotten me? Not at all, the young lady replied, as she watched the calm water from the rock on which she was sitting on. I like you too. The creature purred. Kitten, I would like to amuse myself a bit. Can't we hunt something? Like those big mice from your boss' future grave? You know we can't, Yujito replied. Don't you remember what happened the last time we revealed ourselves in that place? We activated a lot of traps and got chased by the keepers. Overall, it was a funny experience, especially since they failed at harming us. And then when we rubbed that right at their faces, it didn't help my popularity, Yujito thought. We entered a sacred area and more or less trashed it. We got lucky that the Reikage preferred to laugh off our adventure than scolding us. Well, at least we pointed out that the keepers were doing a crappy job at protecting the tomb, the Nibby said. I don't want to try again. You're such a killjoy, kitten, the creature snorted. Can we at least hunt something? Like one of those savage, disgusting lizards hiding in the corners of this valley? Maybe, Yujito conceded. But only after Killer Bee has finished sleeping under his rock. I don't want to have him interrupt us with his rhymes, if you can call those horrors rhymes, the Nibby grumbled. Sometimes, I really pity Hachibi-senpai. I wonder how has he managed to keep his sanity after spending years listening to his container's antics. Apparently, he can turn itself deaf at will, Yujito stated. Lucky bastard, the Nibby fell silent, and then hissed. Kitten, we have intruders coming from the south. The young woman got up, instantly on her guards. Enemies? How did they manage to pass the Great Wall without being detected and apprehended? I don't know, but their souls are quite. The Nibby stopped, before growling. 3 of them are Jinchuriki. What? Yujito asked, as she stealthily advanced toward the south, intending to outverse the newcomers. Impossible. Suna's vessel has been captured by Darui's division and is imprisoned within the vault. The Sanbai is still roaming the sea, and IWA is our ally. The only enemy vessels are the ones from Taki and Kuri, and we have a ceasefire with the second. How can there be 3 unknown Jinchuriki here? Unless, perhaps IWA has decided to betray us. But it doesn't make any sense. No, why are you asking me this? I don't know more than you, the Nibby replied. However, this is strange. I recognize many of the chakra signatures as the Kyuubis. All of the Jinchuriki have the same chakra, even if one is completely chaotic and dissociated. This made Yujito pause for a few seconds. I thought only Kinkaku and Ginkaku had ever succeeded at assimilating the beast's chakra? The last person that tried to imitate them by consuming a Biju's flesh ended up dying. Apparently, those 2 have gained a few fanboys, or fangirls. After so many people tried the same thing, it was normal that at least a small percentage of them were successful. However, I wonder what are their intentions. They don't seem to want to hide their presence, and do not radiate with hostility, well, excepted one of them. It is even more insane than Shikaku. Emissaries, perhaps? She wondered before hiding behind a rock to watch the intruders. She carefully studied them, using the Nibby's vision to pierce their disguises, and her eyes widened in shock and surprise. 2 of them were Naruto. Under their henge, they looked exactly like the young blonde, with the exception of their outfit and soul, which looked a little different from the one of her friend. Another looked like the Jinchuriki's female twin, and also had a disturbingly similar soul to Naruto's own. In their belly, she could see the souls of the Kyuubi. There was no mistake about that. She could have recognized the creature's aura from miles away. However, like their Jinchuriki, they looked slightly different from the Ninetales she knew. One of them, specifically, seemed split in 3 parts, even if they were all part of the same soul. How is it possible? I have absolutely no idea. While trying to understand how there could 4 Kyuubi in existence, Yujito stared at the rest of the group. One was wearing Kiri's forehead protector, and his soul was tainted, even if there was still some shed of goodness within him under this dark skin. She easily recognized the man as Zabuza Momochi, and his sword. Both had been annihilated when Zabuza had used a suicidal technique to kill the Yandere Mizukage years ago. She also recognized another ghost, the mysterious Hayatan user that had died fighting Yagura alongside Zabuza. But Yujito had always thought the dead warrior was a man, not a girl. Her golden, calm, and female-like soul was a testament of her gender. With them, another ghost was walking. Kakashi Hatake had recently been killed by Commander Darui at the Battle of Shillong Fort, in front of 100 of soldiers from both sides. The man's soul was a tortured purple light, exuding despair, pain, and especially rage. The last intruder was a redhead, and a total unknown. But his soul was special, and not in a good way. It had literally no moral, no real connection to the world, as if it was a machine, but under it all, there was a huge mass of feelings, repressed by fear. 3 ghosts, 3 Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and a total unknown, Yujito muttered. How is it possible? I'm as clueless as you are, the Nibi stated. But my vision does not lie. They are all alive, and there are 3 Kyuubi. I don't understand, but I think you should sound the alert. I know, Yujito sighed before biting her finger, drawing blood, and making hand seals before touching the rock with her palm. A small and lean black cat appeared right in front of her, eyeing her with curiosity. Tell the wreckage that strangers have snuck into the valley, that some of them are Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and that they are followed by Kakashi Hatake, Zabuza Momochi, and another ghost. Be swift and fast, and please assure him that I'm not joking. The cat nodded, and popped out in a puff of smoke. What are you going to do, kitten? The Nibi asked with an amused voice. You know, we do not need any help. Instead of lizards, we can capture or kill these people. The tone clearly indicated the Bijou preferred the second option, but Yujito inwardly shook her head. They are too numerous. We need T-dash. It's not polite to spy on others, you know? A male voice whispered to her ears, as her eyes widened in surprise. Calm down. I'm not going to kill you, that is, if you don't try to attack us. How did he sneak behind me so quickly? Yujito wondered. Nibi, why didn't you warn me? Nibi? I can't see his soul. What? She wondered, apparently out loud. The mysterious speaker took it the wrong way. We're not here to fight anyone from your village, Kumonin, he declared. We need the hell dash. Quickly, Yujito slammed the back of her head in the man's nose, before hitting his belly with her elbow. Her attacker staggered a bit, and she used the opportunity to grab his armed hand while increasing her strength with chakra, spin, and smash him on the ground, doing her best not to make too much noise. Kneeling, she took a kunai and approached it from his neck. Her attacker was a teen probably of somewhere around her age, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and whiskers. Her eyes widened as she recognized the boy. Naruto-kun? Naruto's older twin frowned. I fear that you mistake me for someone else. No, she stated. The Nibi's eyes allow me to see through any illusions. Your disguise doesn't work on me. Who the hell is he? She wondered as the boy's jaw dropped in obvious surprise. Someone that you should be wary of, the Nibi replied. He is not normal. What the hell are you talking about? Look where there should be his soul. She obeyed, and saw nothing. But she tried to focus, and noticed that the man had in fact a soul, courageous and determined, but simply looking at it was causing her a headache, and blurred images of a star were filling her mind. She had no idea of what was wrong with this guy, but she forced herself not to look at his soul, as she felt something messing with her head. It was the first time something like that had happened. But even more strangely, there was something in his belly. The remnants of a shattered soul, holding back a miniature, purple sun. Her eyes were burning and she was feeling sick so much that she nullified the Nibi's vision, years of training allowing her not to show weakness in front of that strange teen. The Nibi? He asked, oblivious to her hidden confusion, and Yujito cursed herself for having been so careless. Surprise had overwhelmed her, much to her shame. You are a Jinchuriki? Yujito shrugged. Like your 3 companions, and you too, sort of. She trailed off, making his eyes widen. Nibi, care to explain what happened? He is the host of a powerful entity, much like you, the Nibi responded. But it is far more alien and godlike than anything I have ever seen, and it has hidden its host's presence from us by subtly messing with our minds. Do not look at his soul again, or you might be enthralled by whatever is sealed in it, or worse, transformed into a raving shell of a woman. Who are you? Yujito asked. You can call me Kazama Erasure, he replied, surprisingly calm. And it is not polite to spy on people, Miss Yujito ni, she said reluctantly. He already knew she was the Nibi's container, so why bothering trying to hide her identity? Though it was strange for a ninja not to know her name, she was a war hero, after all. You asked for it by infiltrating this sacred ground. I still wonder how did you manage to get past the wall? The wall? He was obviously faking misunderstanding. What wall? Oh, you know, the wall protecting Kumo from all invaders, overseen by the best of the best and impossible to break through. She deadpanned. He's just the size of a mountain and covered with cannons. The boy grinned sheepishly. Sorry, no idea of what you're talking about, he said with false sincerity, probably. Nibi, I can't see if he lies or not, the bijou replied. I told you, I can't see his soul, can't or don't want, both. Inwardly cursing, Yujito decided to go on with the man's sort of game. Well, if you didn't get past the wall, I assume you simply used the Yandame's technique to teleport yourself here. Am I wrong? It wasn't the Yandame's technique, the blonde conceded. But we did teleport in this place, Yujito snorted. And I assume you somehow found a way to negate the effects of all of the wall's seals, explicitly made to counter such a mean of transportation? Well, would you believe me if I told you we are using a god's power? He asked. I would be skeptical, but since the Yandame already succeeded, she replied, while thinking fast about the revelation. It might be a trick, screw it, it's probably a trick. Damn, what is the use of a lie detector if it doesn't work on some people? It is cool, the Nibi shot back, vexed. That, and with it you always win at ninja poker. Anyway, Yujito continued. What do you people want? We need to see the container of the 8 tails, he said. She snorted. To do what? Sing with him? No, he replied. We need his help. His help? She repeated, quite taken aback. She certainly didn't expect such an answer, but of course, he might be lying. Really, she had become too dependent on the Nibi's vision. Hey, it's not my fault if it doesn't work well on that one guy. I suppose you need his help to tame your 3 Kyuubi, and whatever kind of creature is inside of you, the lady guessed. Yep, the teen grinned. But to be honest, I doubt he will be able to help me. Heck, I doubt anyone can. If he can help my brothers and sister, however. He locked eyes with her. Being a Jinchuriki from Kumo, I assume you know how painful is it not to be able to control your beast's power and have an antagonistic relationship with it? Well, if that crazy Kyuubi's state of mind is of any indication, I can understand why they need a teacher, the Nibi said. This creep is scaring me. It has 3 personalities, for crying out loud. I do understand, she replied. But do you really think Kumo is going to help you with it? Well, it costs nothing to ask politely, he said. Or maybe we can have a deal. She snorted. I don't see how a weakling like you could have anything that could interest the Reikage. The teen grinned. I wouldn't be so sure if I was you. I have plenty of resources. And then, he popped up in a cloud of smoke. Yujito only had the time to widen her eyes as she felt powerful chains winding around her limbs, seizing her and restraining her in less than a minute. She tried to struggle, but she only managed to make the process faster. Unable to move, she saw herself floating above the ground, lifted by blue chains of chakra, before staring at the teen, who was standing a bit far away. And never call me a weakling ever again. Shadow clone, she realized, hissing in shame and defeat. This technique splits the soul of the user, meaning I can't distinguish a clone from the real deal, the Nibi whispered. You got owned, kitten? Want to go 2 tails on his ass? Focusing, Yujito felt the Nibi's chakra invading her system, and the chains tightening, making her scoff. I'm not going to allow you to use your powers, the teen declared. Tell your Bijou not to interfere or I will snap your neck. Sorry, kitten, the creature whispered while it reluctantly obeyed, but I can help you, for now. However, the second we have an opening, I know, she said, trying to stay calm while being enraged. The double of Naruto then jumped next to his friends, the chains carrying Yujito with him. The Jinchuriki realized the whole group had been silently observing the scene from afar, as if it had been planned, which it was, as the teenager's comments confirmed it. Was it really necessary? Kazama asked to the redhead. Of course it was, the redhead replied. A demonstration of strength is always needed. The weak are never respected, and we must show that just because we're asking for help, we aren't beggars. That, and we needed her to alert the wreakage. When will they arrive? The Hayaton user asked, not sounding like a ghost at all. Oh, they are already there, the redhead nonchalantly said, as he stared at the north. The wreakage had come, and he was not alone. The tall and muscled man was followed by 20 ANBU, C, Darui, Mabui, Killer Bee, and Naruto. The real one, of course, who was glaring at them with fury in his eyes. Yujito quickly understood he couldn't see through these people's henge. He looks a bit pissed. Zabuza deadpanned. Not as much as this wrestler, the Naruto girl pointed out, as she stared at the wreakage. Release Yujito, the man shouted, his soldiers straightening at his sides. Now. Of course, Kazama said, as the chains vanished, leaving Yujito to land on her legs. No need to be angry, I'm going to kill you all. The man roared, taking away his shirt and preparing himself to attack. And dash. He stopped, just at the moment when he noticed Kakashi Hatake. His eyes almost jumped out of their socket, and he wasn't alone. Darui had dropped his jaw, the ANBU had stopped moving, Mabui and Naruto had lifted their eyebrows, and a specter, that's so much better, he rhymed. I thought it was a band of bastards, but they're just ghosts of retards. Then, a long silence. That was uncool, Darui muttered. Yujito didn't know if he was talking about the rhymes or the situation. However, the rhymes, the Nibby stated. The rhymes, she confirmed. That, what was that? One of the false Naruto asked. Dark skin check, Kazama began. Totally strange check. Absolutely bad rhymes check. He's the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Good, and the wreakage's brother. The redhead continued before scoffing. Everyone, I'm sure you have realized that, while our meeting with your friend didn't go as good as it could have, we mean no harm to you. Who are you? They asked. How can these dead men still be alive? Kazama smiled. Well, it's complicated. Can we speak in a more calm place? Consider us as your prisoners. Put chains on us or whatever you need, but we won't try escaping. The wreakage frowned, but Naruto then straightened, as he entered the famous chakra mode, becoming clad in a golden energy. They tell the truth, he said. I sense no evil intention within them. He seemed to stiffen when he stared at Kazama, but then his gaze became empty right before returning to normal. They're good guys, if not particularly nice. Snorted. Restrain them, and keep your guards up, he ordered his men, before staring at the newcomers. I'm willing to give you people a chance to explain yourself since Naruto trusts you, but the second you try something, you're dead. The puppet master, Sasori the wreakage, had been incredibly lenient, in Sasori's opinion. They hadn't been chained, no seals had been put on them, and they even had been allowed inside the man's office, only after being stripped of their weapons, objects, and being checked on just to see if they weren't wearing destructive seals. The face of the wreakage's assistant, when she had discovered Sasori's nature, had been priceless. Of course, they hadn't seen Sasori's hidden assets, and the objects sealed inside of his puppet body, like the scrolls from Yuzushiogakure and most of his puppets. If things were to get ugly, the puppeteer could always give everyone secret weapons, and easily recuperate the confiscated objects. He had expected an inspection more extreme, after antagonizing one of Kyumo's Jinchuriki. Of course, since this Jinchuriki was in the same room as them, glaring at Kazama, with her two fellow vessels, the wreakage himself, the man's two bodyguards, secretary, and probable third guard, while the ANBU was waiting on the other side of the office's closed doors, ready to attack any time. Sasori knew that Kyuubi was taking them very seriously. Somehow, it reminded him of his last meeting with the Sandaime Hokage, and Sasori intended to lead the negotiations his way this time as well. And he had already begun to, by explaining the situation and ordering Kazama and his counterparts to drop their henge, planting the seeds of confusion and doubt in his opponents' hearts. Of course, he hadn't revealed everything. No experienced political players revealed all of their aces since the beginning. The puppeteer had not lied, but simply omitted some information, like the real nature of Kazama's seal, its limits, most of their abilities, their knowledge, giving a slight portion of truth to get people to believe you, while keeping most of it for a later use, was the best strategy possible. It was way better than lying, unless your truth was simply too hard to conceal otherwise. Sasori's expert eyes stared at the different protagonists on the scene, watching their face and their emotions. And he didn't forget all the weapons they were wearing, just in case he had to take one hostage or fight his way out. He also reviewed the info he had gathered on them, just in case. Yes, he could already see a few differences between his and this world, like Yujito's age or Naruto's allegiance, but he doubted they would have different techniques, or at least he hoped so. The office itself was quite big and looked a lot like the Hokage's. You could look at the whole village through a large window, and probably escape by breaking through it. There were some hidden seals that could be used to dampen chakra around, or increase the potency of lightning techniques, hence giving the Reikage and Kakashi a decisive advantage should there be a battle. The Reikage was a bulky man, with an impressive build. He was dark-skinned, had white hair, beard and mustache, along with black eyes and a stern face. He was wearing a Kage's white robes, black pants and sandals. Obviously a taijutsu and lightning jutsu expert, his bodyguards were Jounin-level ninjas, known as Darui and C, apparently the same as the ones of Sasori's universe, if the way they were acting as was of any indication. The first was the Reikage's right hand, if the familiar way he was addressing his superior was of any indication. A laid-back dark-skinned man with relaxed black eyes, shaggy white hair and a sleeveless uniform, this man was probably Kyuubi's version of Kakashi, a powerful ninja not taking life seriously, or rather, appearing not to take it seriously. The tattoos on his arms, indicating his mastery of the black lightning and the storm release, were a proof of that. The other bodyguard was probably relatively new Jounin, with his serious expression and tense muscles. Black eyes, blonde hair, a uniform with multiple pockets, probably a medic nin or a support type. The last, non-Jinchuriki shinobi was the Reikage secretary, a woman called Mabui. A dark-skinned woman with platinum hair pulled back in a bun and green eyes. She was wearing a green formal attire that was revealing most of her physical assets. Sasori wasn't interested in women, his puppet body freed of the dangers of hormones, but he knew that most men viewed the woman as very pretty. Of course, she was probably aware of it like all good kunoichi and able to use her charms for infiltration and assassinations. She could prove herself to be dangerous. But she wasn't even half as dangerous as Yujito was. A young woman with long blonde hair bound by a bandage, black eyes, and wearing a black and purple shinobi attire, this Yujito was far younger than the one from Sasori's world, and probably only slightly older than Kazama. But if she could control the Nibi, she was not to be underestimated. Kazama had the advantage of surprise the first time, but the kunoichi would know what to expect the next. The eldest Jinchuriki was also slightly disturbing him. The strange man was like a younger, less muscular copy of his brother, with a less serious face and a goatee instead of a mustache and beard. He was wearing black sunglasses, an attire composed of a white flak jacket, ropes and forehead protector, and black pants. He was also carrying no less than 7 blades on his back, and the seal on his right arm showed to everyone his state as the Hachibi's vessel, and his incredible competence. Most Jinchuriki died young, and rarely lived more than 20 years, their beast either consuming them or their village killing them. And finally, there was the new Naruto. He was apparently more or less of Chibaka's age, and was wearing a Kyuubi's flak jacket colored in orange, white pants, and the Cloud's forehead protector. He was also carrying 2 blades, showing that he had some proficiency in swordsmanship. Dual wielding was extremely hard, and his previously seen, alternate form, was the proof that he had a good, if not absolute, control over his beast. So yeah, they were screwed if the wreakage ever decided to capture or kill them. But Sasori had been in worse situations before, and would adapt himself. That was the secret of survival. After the Kyuumonin recovered from their shock and surprise, the wreakage ordered both his troops to confirm the puppeteer's revelations. Both the Kyuumo Naruto and Yujito confirmed sensing the Kyuubi inside of Chibaku, Naruto and Kitsune. Mabui checked their seals and declared they were not fake. Darui repeated he did kill Kakashi Hatake himself, and that there was no way he could have survived, and B was making rhymes. "My disciple has a swordsman twin," he shouted happily. "Which one's is the better nin?" "Kitsune has only begun training," Sasori replied. "Better make them underestimate him. He is not yet fit to beat this youngling." Of course, everyone stared at him in shock, excepted Killer Bee, who grinned happily. "Oh, you are speaking in the secret language of the bees. Here is another brother of the Brotherhood of the Awesome Poetries." "I'm not so much of a master of word twisting," Sasori responded. "More like of a lover of all things interesting." "What?" he asked to the blank crowd. "I like art, all arts." "It's a nightmare," Yujito grumbled. "It's a cool dream." The Kyuumo Naruto smiled. "Today, I can see the sun's beam." "Be serious, damn it!" A roared, breaking his desk by punching it, making everyone fell silent. "It is a very important matter." "Reikage-sama, your desk," Mabui muttered. "It is the 3rd this week. Well, then I will buy a 4th one," he shot back, before staring at the Arashir clan. "What the hell do you want from us?" "Our help when your pursuers track you down." "Possibly, if you are willing to give it," Sasori continued, shutting down Kazama's inevitable refusal. The blonde had given the redhead carte blanche for the negotiations, trusting his expertise, and showing dissensions was already decreasing their chances of gaining something out of them. They needed to appear as united as possible. "But preferably, we would like to exchange knowledge." "What kind of knowledge?" the wreakage asked skeptically. "My friends have some difficulties controlling their bijou, and an ally informed us that only the ninja of Kyumogakure possessed the knowledge to accomplish such a feat, flattering their pride. So we want to know if you would be ready to train them. In exchange, we will of course give you techniques, jutsu, information, expertise. It might effectively be interesting." A muttered, "However, bro." Killer Bee interrupted him. "Please accept their proposal. The redhead is a cool guy, and the others seem nice." "Yeah, Reikage-sama," the Kyuumo Naruto added. "They don't intend to betray us. I sensed it when I looked into them with the chakra mode. They do have negative emotions in some of them, but they aren't directed toward us." "I didn't said I'd refuse." A groaned. "Let me finish." He stared at the Arashir clan. "I need to ponder this proposal before making a decision. I have already too much work, with the current political situation." Sasori memorized the info for later questioning. "And as such, I prefer we settle this tomorrow. For the moment, you will stay under the ANBU and B's supervision until I reach a decision. Mabui will show you where you will stay for the night." Of course, Sasori knew it was simply a way of saving face. The wreakage probably still hadn't completely dealt with the whole multiverse reveal, and needed time to cope with it, plan, and think how he could exploit the situation to its fullest, while keeping them at hand. He was probably going to ask someone to bring them where they would sleep, some kind of trapped, watched place. "She will also show you where you stay for the time being, a hostel called the Tarapu. You will keep a henge in public. Understood?" In the meantime, the ANBU would spy on them and give the man detailed information on their psyche, shown techniques, way of thinking, values, everything that could be of use. Once the wreakage would have all cards in his hand, he would confront the Arashir again and make another proposition more favorable to him, and then Sasori would have to exploit it and amend it. It was how negotiations happened in the ninja world, most of the time, when someone was trying to enlist a defector from another country. "Now get out," the Reikage ordered. Darui stays with me. I have assignments for you. Or rather, I need to talk with you about this mess, Sasori guessed as he left the room. He also distinctly heard Darui groan. Please follow me, ladies and gentlemen, Mabui politely ordered, as she walked out of the Reikage's headquarters. The Erasure clan obeyed, and the 3 Jinchuriki from Kumo followed them. While Killer Bee had been ordered to do so, the Kumo Naruto declared he simply wanted to get to know his counterparts, while Yujito had decided to watch over them for any sign of danger, though the venomous glare she gave to Kazama clearly indicated she simply wanted a rematch against the blonde. Yo, Brother Rhymes! Killer Bee shouted happily. Would you enjoy a little game? Which one? Perhaps he could fish out a few info from him. A poetry battle! I would rather like a haiku competition, cool. He smirked. I thought you didn't love them. The hybrid, Kitsune in Kitsune's opinion, the Tarappa was a nice place where to sleep. It was a big, large hostel painted in red and gold, with a large terrace and a great dining room. It was a palace. Guarded, Samahata whispered in his head. People around and inside it. It was how Kitsune perceived Samahata's feelings. The fish couldn't hold a real conversation with her wielder. Yes, Samahata was apparently a female creature, but she communicated through exchanges of emotions, sensory perceptions, and mental images. She could smell chakra around, and was like having an incredible hunting dog if used like that. Kisame rarely used her as such, preferring to have her suck his reserves continuously in order to train and increase them. Having already enough chakra, Kitsune asked her to help in different ways. He had also been surprised by Samahata's other abilities. She could record chakra signatures and track them. She could also exchange memories with her wielder and serve as a spy for him. In fact, it was what she had originally been created for, before Kisame gained her after killing her old wielder, one she had never really liked anyway. When Kitsune had asked her how she had been created, the sword had responded by sending him a disturbing image of giant green turtle devouring huge whales, which she had called Mother. In order to preserve what was left of his sanity, Kitsune had decided not to be more curious after that scene. Are you alright? The Kumo Naruto asked him, interrupting his thoughts. You do not seem to be focused. Oh, he replied. It's nothing, Naruto-san, call me En. He smirked. It's my codename while on missions. And I completely understand, it's a little paradise here. His smile widened. I couldn't even talk when the Reikage gave me a room in it. You live there? Kitsune asked, his eyebrows raised. Ever since I left Konoha, he said. The best day of my life. I see, Kitsune muttered. How did you convince the Sandaime to let you leave? It is complicated, En replied. The subject was obviously sensible. I would rather not talk about it. Sorry, Kitsune muttered. It must be a sad part of your life, yeah? He smirked. But it's behind me now, so no big deal. He locked eyes with his counterpart. I still can't believe that you are me, not a clone, not a twin, but me. I am not exactly you, Kitsune pointed out. Which is good for you, you wouldn't like having dark and crazy voices urging you to kill people in your head. I am simply what you could have been. So I could have been a girl? He asked, and Kitsune nodded. Man, it feels wrong on so many levels. Don't tell me I could have been a transvestite? Sexy no jutsu. I don't even want to know what you're talking about, Kitsune-kun, he said. Want help to move in? We're in the same dorm, after all. After that, we can do a little training session, don't you think? It's very kind of you, but I'm not that good. Even if he was beginning to improve under Zabuza's tutelage, he was still only barely passable. He could swing his sword, true, but he couldn't do it well. Who cares? And laughed. You should have seen me when I began using Minato and Kushina. Kitsune raised his eyebrows. Our parents, I call my blades like that, and explained with a smile. It's my way of paying them tribute for giving birth to me. He stared at Samahata. What is her name? Samahata, he said, caressing and making her bark happily, much to En's amazement. Oh shit, it's alive? Yep, Kitsune replied. She is a bit timid, but she's really friendly. You can touch her if you want to. And smirked, and caressed the fish's back, making her lick his hand. Good sword. Nice, Samahata thought. Like. She likes you. Kitsune smiled. I always had a gift with animals, and declared. B-sensei's island is full of beasties like big pandas. I hope that Reikage-sama will allow you there, so I can show them to you. He smirked. After I helped you beat the crap out of your demon and bully it into submission. It's very kind of you. Kitsune smiled. He's so nice, so confident. I wish I could be like him. Lies. Kitsune inwardly frowned. What is the problem, Samahata? Lies, Samahata repeated. Mask. Hidden. Smile on the outside, but not the inside. He's not really what he appears to be? No, the fish replied, as Zen explained Kitsune a few things about how to treat animals. Inside there is you. Fear and guilt. The puppeteer, Chibaku, after having installed himself in his new, individual room, if you could call the little house a bedroom. Chibaku went on to go on with the standard procedure, aka checking every inch of the place to look out for all possible traps, see if they could be neutralized by exploiting the fact that their watchers would be more focused on Sasori himself and the other, more dangerous adults. And then give his boss a coded oral report. He had done that so many times that he could have done that with his eyes shut. Literally. But of course, he preferred to keep his vision. Who knew what could happen? Self-esteem was important, but overestimating yourself was one hell of an idiotic way of getting killed, and the fatal flaw of many great men, Sasori had forced him to repeat again and again as if he was some kind of parrot. After his search, Chibaku mentally made a list of all the potential problems they would face. Explosive seals on all the doors and windows, triggered at distance. Little corridors perfect for ambushes. Holes in the walls for use of jutsu from attacking forces. Hidden guards on the roof, third and first floor. Not sure about the number, but I think around roughly 50. A bigger force on the outside, probably better twice as numerous. No safe way to escape, but dorm kitchen wall is the less harmful and dangerous road. Now, just have to find Sasori and tell him that he found him on the terrace, and suddenly regretted his action. Ninja in orange. A demon in his stomach. Wants to be leader, blondie prankster kid. Shape shifts into Busta Girls. Demon Fox? Really? Really? Killer Bee asked to Sasori. It's even more ridiculous than it sounds, the puppeteer replied. Now, back to business. Sorry man. The Hachibi's vessel excused himself, before writing something on a sheet of paper with a pencil. Kumonins are cool. Don't care about Naruto. Something is wrong here. Kids were friends/rivals. They became best enemies. Obsession ensued. Believe in yourself, but you have a fox spirit, you cheating bastard. Both Sasori and Killer Bee looked at Chibaku, who shrugged. Sorry, I wanted to say that to Naruto. That wasn't bad for a beginner. Sasori nodded with appreciation. Your disciple is a little genius, yeah, Killer Bee said, while writing Chibaku's haiku. But next time, I think he should try rap. Poetry is almighty, but it's getting old. So? Chibaku trailed off. Who is winning? Redhead-kun, Bee stated. All of the brothers of the rhymes are equal, except before grandmasters like him. But the power of my haiku will one day triumph. Okay, the blonde puppeteer lamely said. It's official now. I don't understand anything of what you say. I did, the Kyuubi muttered ominously. Nothing will be the same anymore now. Oh! Killer Bee shouted. It's my team! He pointed his finger on 3 approaching teens. Get over here and cheer for me. I need your praise to defeat my haiku archenemy. Is he really insane, or simply faking it? Chibaku thought, as he stared at the newcomers. Hopefully, if their serious faces are of any indication, they are at least partially sane. The group was composed of 2 girls and 1 boy, all 1 year or 2 older than Chibaku himself. They were wearing gray-white outfits, Kyuumo's forehead protectors, and blades. The boy was dark-skinned, had white hair, and black eyes. The first girl was a dark-skinned redhead, with amber eyes and wearing yellow earrings, while the second had a fair skin, short blonde hair, blue eyes, and the second biggest chest he had ever seen, second only to Tsunade. How can she even walk? The puppeteer wondered. She should be in pain with all the backaches. Hello, B-sensei. The redhead saluted him, before staring at Sasori and Chibaku, stiffening. Who are they? New musicians? Black Cloak. The boy muttered as he stared at Sasori with a thoughtful look, before his eyes widened. B-sensei. They must be from some kind of cult trying to brainwash you into their ranks. Chibaku's jaw dropped, while Sasori simply raised an eyebrow. And may I ask why you think that? The puppet master asked. Because you wear a black outfit, the boy continued, the two girls rolling their eyes. The colors code is categorical on that subject, black is evil. Chibaku face-palmed. Guy, you're wearing a gray outfit. Does it means you are half evil? I have more white, he replied. Meaning I'm only a quarter bad. Screw this. The blonde puppeteer sighed. I give up on trying to understand what is going on. A wise decision, the Kyuubi whispered. The redhead girl trailed off with exasperation. The choice of clothing doesn't always reflect the morality of the wearer. Yeah, he nodded. You're right, Karui, sometimes it is used as a trick, meaning he's some kind of super spy trying to pass himself as evil while working for the good Gu-dash. It was at this moment that the girl named Karui put her palm on the boy's mouth, much to his surprise. Please excuse him, the blonde girl said with a calm, serene voice. Omo always sees bad things or incredibly weird things in perfectly normal situations. You mean he's always like that? Chibaku asked, and the girl nodded. Damn, and I thought I had seen everything in this short life of mine. Karui shrugged. I don't know what kind of life you had to be so jaded, but believe me, you have seen nothing. What's your name, by the way? Chibaku, he replied. The redhead next to me is called Shinja. We're just travelers stopping in Kyuumo for the time being. Nice to meet you, the blonde girl said. I am Samui, and they are my teammates Oma and Karui. We are B-sensei's students. If only they could love the power of rhymes as I do. The man whined. You're awesome, sensei, Karui said, obviously lying. But rap is better, I know. He smirked. Here is my new presentation. He jumped and took a fighting pose. I float, like a butterfly. And sting like a bee. 'Cause I'm the eight-tailed beast. Silence. If someone needs me, I will be in my room, Chibaku said as he left the terrace, trying to salvage whatever sanity I've still left. The girl, Naruto, unlike her friends and counterparts, Naruto had decided to continue her training as soon as she had installed herself. She had asked Mabui for a place to train, who in turn had shown her the Tarapa's dojo. Of course, Sasori had already explained them beforehand that they would probably be observed, but Naruto didn't care. She had to improve, and fast. Rasengan! She shouted, as she impacted the sphere on a block of ice. But instead of breaking it, the sphere decomposed itself before it could do any damages, Naruto cursed, as she formed another Rasengan in her palm, trying to maintain the shape with her second hand. Naruto-sensei has explained me how to do it, Naruto thought as she slammed the sphere on the ice, and yet I still haven't mastered it yet. Once again, her attack didn't do any damage. Perhaps you should use a clone, as Kazama-san advised you, Haku whispered. I need to master it in its normal form, Naruto stated, as she created another imperfect sphere. I need to make progress. You are always progressing, Naruto, Yuki assured, as Naruto failed to break the ice wall once again. You are becoming stronger with each passing day. It still isn't enough, the blonde replied, as a few stray memories rushed through her mind. I'm still too weak. Far too weak. Haku simply frowned sadly. It's about Kishin, isn't it? Yes, she confirmed, creating another Rasengan. Each time I fight someone, I ends up extremely injured and have to wait for someone to rescue me. First time I really fought someone, Naruto Niki had to save me from Mizuki. The second time, Susanoo beat me up so badly that I stayed in a coma for a short time, and only survived because of Naruto Niki again. I did better in my rematch with the Uchiha bastard, but even then without Kitsune-kun I would have drowned. And then there's my fight with Kishin, she growled, as she rammed the Rasengan on the ice again at full force, doing no damage again. The only enemies I ever defeated are logs and muted trees, for crying out loud, she snarled with rage. I can't even defend myself against other ninjas. A short silence followed, before Haku rediscovered the use of her voice. Naruto. I don't know who is this Mizuki, but both Susanoo and Kishin are enemies that could probably count as the equivalents of Bijou. You couldn't have done anything to them, but this asshole trio is going to track us down, Naruto whispered. I refuse to stand on the sidelines, or simply wait until someone saves my ass again. She created another Rasengan. I am not worthless. I refuse to be so. She slammed the sphere with all of her might, and this time it didn't decompose. The block of ice exploded in many shards, and Haku gasped. You succeeded! Told you I would. She smirked. Naru-sensei is one hell of a teacher, and I never back down. A very important quality, a new female voice added. Both Naruto and Haku turned to face the newcomer, the woman named Yujuto. She was grinning ear to ear. Men tend to think that women can't be strong, and only serve as medics, cheerleaders, or prostitutes/assassins, she said. But girls are better than that. Women like Pakura of the Sand, Mei Terumi, Mido Uzumaki, and Tsunade Senju earn their fame through power and efforts, and not because of their looks. She then eyed Naruto. As long as you will keep confidence in yourself, and that you find new ways to improve yourself, then you have nothing to fear. Naruto smiled, for a few seconds. But I don't have the power to beat my enemies, she realized, remembering her fights with Susanoo. I still do not have it. I mean, yeah, I have the Kyuubi, but I can't demolish bridges on a whim or use super powerful techniques. Power isn't the only thing that wins battles, Yujuto replied. And without skill, even power is useless. It doesn't matter if you have an overwhelming firepower if you can't use it well. She smiled. The important thing, girl, is simply to find new ways how to use what you already have. Adapt your techniques to fit a situation, create variations of them, or outright improve them. Naruto raised her eyebrows. Improving my techniques? Yujuto nodded. Most jutsu have been created with only one goal in the mind of the creator, while there are many potential applications to them beside this one. For example, a fireball was created to attack, while it could be used as a shield as well or to deflect projectiles. Even something like the tree climbing exercise can be used to attack. Really? Both Naruto and Haku wondered. Yujuto nodded. Allow me to show it to you. Haku-san, can you create another of those blocks of yours? Make it as solid as you can. The girl nodded, joined her hands, and shaped a huge block of ice. It should resist to a cannonball, Haku stated. Good, Yujuto said before touching it with her index. A second later, the surface of the structure shattered around it, much to the other kunoichi's amazement. Do you understand what I just did? The Nibi's vessel asked. You made your finger adhere to the ice. Biyuki guess, but you overcharged your chakra. Exactly. Yujuto nodded. It's what happened to the bark of trees when you put too much chakra in your limbs. All materials have different resistances to your chakra, but they all crack under enough pressure, even diamonds, if you put enough chakra on its surface. She smirked. Now, imagine what happens when I use this technique on an enemy's body while fighting? You hurt him a lot, Naruto realized. With such a simple exercise, it's just a matter of innovation, Yujuto said. People always copy others, and rarely create new concepts. Geniuses, true geniuses, are the men and women who do not simply mindlessly use old techniques, but either improve them or create stronger variations. Take your Rasengan. Are you sure it can only take the form of a sphere? Can't you find a way to use it like a shuriken, throwing it at people instead of trying to get close? I don't know, she admitted. I have seen Naruto Nikki use a bigger variation, but nothing more. Though that feral Gale did use a shuriken version, if it was a bit strange, maybe I can recreate it? Then you will have to find it yourself, Yujuto declared. And I'm sure you will be able to do that, once the time will come. Thank you, Yujuto-san, Naruko said, bowing slightly, Haku imitating her. It was very kind of you to help us. It was a pleasure, she said. You remind me of myself, when I was your age, and I'm convinced you are destined to do great things, Naruko-san. The broken man, Kakashi was staring at the twilight from the roof of the Tarapu, ignoring the camouflaged ANBU that were secretly watching him. He had retired there to meditate in peace, while thinking about what he would do when he saw his students again. If they are still my students, Kakashi thought, do they still a spark of life inside of them? Or are they just empty shells moved around by the mind of a madman? Is there any hope of saving them? Is there any hope of bringing them back? Or will I have to kill them again? He cursed whatever force or fate that had chosen to have him face such an ordeal. No teacher should be forced to fight his own students, to see them corrupted into inhuman horrors and being forced to decide whether or not killing them was for the greater good. Did the Sandaime think the same thing, when he had finally discovered what Orochimaru was doing and confronted him? Now I know the pain he must have felt. Trapped in your thoughts, Kakashi? Zabuza asked, as he joined the Jounin on the roof. Gazing at the sun is not a smart thing, even if it is going to be night soon. It calms me, the broken man replied. My old team used to watch the twilight, once we finished our missions. It always made me feel at peace. I gave you some advice, I didn't ask you to talk about your past. Zabuza grumbled. Kakashi blinked. Why are you here? The swordsman shrugged. What, it's forbidden to go on roofs these days. I'm doing a little spotting, just in case. Did you find anything interesting? Kakashi asked lazily. Yeah, a man dumb enough to stare at the sun. Zabuza deadpanned. Seriously, how can you be considered as a genius? It never ceased to astonish me. Kakashi stiffened. I didn't choose the title, he said. I got it because I graduated earlier than normal and because I was one of Konoha's best and most obedient dogs. Or, more precisely, Kenta's pride. Some people thought that by calling me a genius, people would start to imitate me. And they did? Zabuza snorted, while Kakashi shook his head. And what about your original jutsu? The Chidori? Just a lame adaptation of the third Raikage's ultimate technique in an attempt to approach completing Sensei's technique from a different angle by focusing on the element first. Kakashi explained. I saw him once during the war, when he fought Sarutobi-sama at the Battle of Aguni. As I observed it, I wondered if it could be possible for normal people to use it. After that I tried to adapt it, and I ended up creating the Chidori, and then the Raikiri. He snorted. They're just pale imitations. Zabuza sneered. You seem to be on a depressed mood, aren't you? Everybody knows you're not exceptional, but nobody denies that you're good. If I was really good, half of the crap in this life of mine wouldn't have happened, Kakashi said. If I had been good, my students wouldn't have been reduced to the state of animated cadavers. Zabuza had nothing to reply to that, well, verbally that was. Instead, he simply punched Kakashi on the face, making the Jounin flinch and his nose bleed. The Jounin simply eyed his ally with anger. Why did you do that? Because you make me sick, Zabuza declared emotionlessly. I heard you talk to the blonde brat, you know. I thought you had stopped wallowing the past. But no, you're still the same wimp as before. I have changed, Kakashi stated. Then stop beating yourself over your mistakes. Zabuza snarled. You have a hellish childhood? Fine, I know what it feels and it hurts. You have lost people you loved? I can understand that you miss them. But thinking about what could have happened if I had been better, it's only useful when you learn from your mistakes and act to avoid repeating history. But the past is the past, and it can't be changed. What happened, happened, nothing can change it, the important is to focus on the future, not the past. I don't know how many times someone will have to say it to you, Kakashi, but telling yourself all the time that you suck is completely idiotic. Kakashi almost retorted, but kept his mouth shut at the last moment. You can get up, you can continue your road, and shape your own way. Stop letting others dictate how you should live, and create your own future. The swordsman locked eyes with the Jounin, his gaze full of determination. Kill the man you were, Kakashi, and be reborn. Kill the son of the White Fang. Kill Konoha's genius. Kill the Yandame's student. Kill Team 7's teacher. Become Kakashi, and no one else. Then, he took a kunai in his hand. The past has to be buried, Kakashi. If it refuses to stay in its grave, the only option is to beat it into submission. When your students will confront you, you will only have two choices. He pointed the kunai at Kakashi. Letting the past kill you, or finally end it forever. This choice will be yours, and yours alone. The wreakage, Are you sure this is all? A asked. Mabui nodded. Yes, it is all I have to report. I see, he said. Then you're dismissed. I will stay here tonight. Take a meal, a drink, whatever you want, I'm feeling generous. Thank you, Wreakage-sama. She bowed, before leaving, closing the doors behind her. For a short time, A stayed alone in his office, while the night had just fallen on his village. Darui and C had left for the front lines, as it had become obvious Kakashi's death had only renewed Danzo's determination to win the war. Sometimes, A really regretted having started it. It would have spared him a lot of paperwork. The Wreakage's eyes snapped open. What do you want? He asked to the man behind him, while beginning to read his troops' reports over his shoulder. My, have I interrupted something important? The voice of the newcomer asked casually. I thought you didn't enjoy paperwork, Wreakage Dano? That is why you hired Mabui, besides her special technique, and maybe her looks of course. I have no time for these stupidities. A snapped, enraged by the man's lack of respect. I repeat, what do you want? Answers, he replied. What do you intend to do with our visitors? Immediately understanding who the man was talking, A snorted. Why does it concern you? Haven't you guessed why? The man asked. A noticed he was standing before the office's window, looking through it at the Tarappa. And I thought you were the smartest Kage of this decade, which was why I helped you make the good decisions with this little war of yours. He was right. Without the man's precious advices, the Hyuga incident would have probably led to nowhere, and his predictions tipped the course of the war in Kumo's favor. The man had been a great ally, but at the same time, A found him disgusting. He was simply a worm trying to survive at all costs, even if he had to do atrocious things to realize his goals, and his current illness didn't help his anger management problems. So honestly, what are you planning to do with them? Let them run around and send them to the front lines? He asked. You already sent Darui and C away, probably, A said. You have something else in mind? Oh yes. He smiled cruelly. Give them to me. Capture them and imprison them in the vault. Why should I do that? The Wreakage asked. He had actually thought of it beforehand, the very second he had seen these fools having taken Yujito hostage. Nobody menaced one of his soldiers and lived to tell the tale about it. Yet Naruto's words had confused him. The blonde's special sense had never been wrong before, so he had decided to keep his calm. In spite of his fiery temper, he hadn't been chosen as Wreakage for nothing. He knew how to seize a good opportunity, hence why he had started the war to expand Kumo's power. Once these travelers had explained who they were and what they could offer, A had pondered about his options. A deal with them might give him the firepower Kumogakure needed to take over the rest of the continent, and finally getting rid of Iwagakure, their untrustworthy ally, but they were unreliable. They were foreigners. Simply imprisoning them for studies might actually turn out to be better, as he wouldn't give them anything in return for their help, or depend on them. So he had decided to keep both options at hand. He had accepted the deal, but also prepared to stab them in the back if he ever changed his mind. His visitors would not have any hostage anymore, They would be in a secluded area, in the center of Kyuubi, with all his soldiers ready to intervene, but more importantly, they would be careless. If a fight broke out, he would have the upper hand, without taking any stupid risk. I had the feeling his advisor would try to convince him to replace the if by a when. They can prove themselves to be useful. They will, but not as soldiers, the man corrected the other smoothly. I can extract their Kyuubi and contain them so we can use them as weapons later, or simply create new, loyal Jinchuriki. It will be safer than relying on these unknown variables, and we both know that these vermin are going to leave as soon as their problems will be corrected. That, and they might even be able to cure my ailment. A frown at that. I thought even studying Naruto didn't help you at all. Perhaps his doubles will make the difference. He shrugged. I'm running out of time, Reikage Dano, and I need these people to continue living. You remember what I did for you, right? Now, it is your time to do something for me. I frowned, before shrugging too. All right, E1, I will order the Kinkaku force to capture them tonight. Good, Reikage Dano. The man whispered, his snake-like golden eyes shining in the dark. I knew I was right to support you. The deceiver, Tsukiyomi the second Madara touched the ground. He knew something was wrong. The trio and Susanu's possessed bodies had teleported in the center of a large, massive city, with big buildings and a lot of people around. The sky was clear, and humans were looking at them with shock and incomprehension. They didn't have any chakra, so they were simply civilians. Where the hell are we? Amaterasu wondered out loud, as a high-pitched sound resonated in the air. Look at the ground. Susanoo replied, as the civilians were beginning to flee. Tsukiyomi obeyed, and saw a message sculpted onto the soil. Hello people! Welcome to Hiroshima. It's going to be a real firework, so enjoy the last 20 seconds of your life. Cordially yours, Ghost. Have a nice day. It was this moment that he heard a deep noise. Lifting his head, Madara just had the time to blink as he saw something exploding in the air, unleashing a flash of light and a fiery wave of heat. The trio didn't have the time to teleport. They only saw a sun being born, and the next second, they were standing on the terrace of a dark castle. Well, not really a castle. The construction looked like an assembled mass of different buildings, a chaotic architecture that shouldn't even be able to stand. Horizontal towers, twisted bridges, chained islands. It was as if something alien had tried to imitate reality, only succeeding in showing how much it didn't understand the laws of physics. Where are we? Madara muttered, as he stared around him. The construction was floating in a dark void, with stars providing the light. You are in the territory of oblivion. A familiar male voice responded, and Madara felt his blood freeze in his veins. Between the worlds, there is only void and darkness. The three Uchiha stared at the ghost in front of them. Dark, short hair, a pale skin, a perfect face, and two red eyes staring at them. The specter was wearing a black, ethereal armor, with the Uchiha crest on it, and was wielding a long red sword. While it seemed human, the ghost didn't appear to emit any heat, and the eternal Mangekyo could see that it simply wasn't a human. The edges of the body were too perfect, too precise, as if it was a portrait even better than the original model. It simply wasn't his brother Izuna. Welcome, travelers, the illusion whispered. Who are you, disgusting faker? Susanoo hissed, obviously angered by the fact that someone was using his brother's shape. Or rather, what the hell are you? I am nothing but a projection of your memories. The ghost replied with an emotionless voice. I was sent to you by the primal darkness to make you comfortable. You do not seem to be at ease with this form. I can change it if you want to. Then do it. Amaterasu menaced, or I will annihilate you. Very well, the ghost whispered, as its traits changed. It predicted you would be more receptive to the appearance of a loved one. It stated, its voice becoming more female-like. Is this one better? The illusion had now taken the form of Yumi, Madara's deceased wife. The kunoichi was as beautiful as ever, with her long black hair, perfect skin and curves, and was wearing a black kimono. Tsukiyomi had been astonished when he had seen her reflection in Mikoto Uchiha, his descendant, and had even wondered if she hadn't reincarnated herself to lead the Uchiha clan anew on the path of weakness and the obedience of the will of fire. But in the end, Madara had won. He had purged the remnants of his clan from this disgusting way of thinking, and wiped out Yumi's teachings from all memories. And yet, even as bitter as he was, he couldn't help but regret her loss. He hated her like he hated the Senju, his children, Konoha, and so many people, but he still cherished the memory of the woman he had loved. He still loved the woman he had married, the kunoichi he had alongside with, the lady that had comforted him after Izuna's death. He only hated the woman that had abandoned him, that had forsaken him, and that had opposed him. It seemed childish to dissociate people like that, but Madara was a conflicted character with conflicted views. He knew there was only one Yumi, that the woman he loved was the same woman he hated, but he couldn't help but try to separate them. "It is acceptable," Tsukiyomi whispered. "How did we end up there? The Lord of Stars is older than creation itself," the illusion replied ominously. "It knows all the laws ruling the different worlds, and knows how to exploit them. Your misadventure simply created the necessary conditions it needed to bring you there, in its realm." The ghost rotated. "Please follow me inside. Your savior awaits your presence in the throne room." "Is it supposed to be symbolic?" Tsukiyomi mused, while his counterpart snickered. "The Dark Ruler thought it would be more appropriate," the false Yumi explained. "The Dark Force is power incarnated, and humans tend to associate it with thrones and kings." She entered the castle, followed by the Uchiha trio and Susanu's other bodies. They had already guessed their savior's identity, and were certainly interested in knowing what it wanted to talk about. But they all knew that whatever Amatsumi Kaboshi was planning would not be a good thing.